Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto stops hiding his power council bashing. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Isom and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Kano has new bloodlines. Iubi sat in his cage drumming his claws on the ground. He was looking at Naruto's DNA and was looking through the multiple strands. Right now he was bored as heck. He couldn't see anything of interest. Other than his parents, this kid doesn't have any interesting ancestors, Kyuubi said to no one in particular. I swear if I don't find anything good I'm going to go insane. It was 10 that he noticed something strange. He noticed a strange form of DNA from one of Naruto's forefathers. He also noticed that there was the smell of death about it. I'm not sure how he could smell that from DNA, but let's just say he could. Kyuubi felt his curiosity rise. He looked into it and saw the man's life. His eyes widened and smiled as he saw what was happening. He saw a man in a black leather jacket with a red design on the back with the hood pulled up. He saw the man charge at an army of soldiers. The soldiers shot at him. The bullets hit him, but they didn't do anything to hurt him. Then black and red tentacles spread across his arms. His arms became bulkier and spikes sprouted over a now bulkier upper arm. His hands grew larger and 3 talons grew out of his hand replacing his fingers and a bladed thumb replaced the regular one. The man then swung his claws at the soldiers in his path. Each swing sliced through each one and tore them apart. While he was slicing soldiers, one snuck up behind him with a large cannon. The man turned and noticed. The soldier fired the weapon. The man's left arm turned into a large shield and took the blast. His other arm turned into a small bladed thing. He then shot an arm out and the thing that replaced his hand shot off and connected with the man. Then it retracted pulling the soldier to him. Then the man's shield arm turned into a massive blade and shoved it into the soldier's chest. Kyuubi cut things off from there. He was rather interested. He knew with those kinds of powers the kid he was sealed inside would become incredibly powerful. However, he felt like the kid needed an edge. If everyone thought he only could fight physically, then they might not expect him to pull something else. He started to can the DNA against to find someone else with incredible skill. And boy did he find one. There was the memories of a man in a place where the technology far surpassed the kind the humans had. He saw this one fight against armies of flying saucers, large machines and strange creatures the likes he had never seen before. The man used these strange cylinders that summoned blades of light that cut through his enemies like a knife through hot butter. He shot lightning from his fingertips at will, lifted things with his mind, controlled people with his mind, and could send out waves of energy just by focusing. He could combine these techniques with his weapons. He also saw that certain crystals had different effects on enemies. This, the fox said with an evil grin, is really going to help out the kid. It's a good thing it's Friday night. The kid's going to need to practice with his new powers. Plus he's gonna need time to make those weapons. Kyuubi then sent everything he saw into the boy's mind. As he did he smirked knowing his container was no longer going to be quite so weak. He then sent out some of his chakra to make a few changes to his DNA so he could use the same abilities as the first one. He then noticed that the second one didn't use chakra to use those techniques. The fox stopped thinking. He got an idea. He then sent out some more chakra to create some more coils for this power. What was it called? Oh yes, the force. While this was going on, Naruto, the fox's container, tossed and turned under his sheets. He saw the visions and felt his body burn. Luckily the fox was putting Naruto further under so he could see all the things his ancestors could do. Naruto's body burned as his body expanded and grew taller and more muscular, and the new coils were added. Naruto had a very rough night. The next morning, Naruto woke up groggily as he cursed the shining object in the sky. He slowly dragged himself out of bed and into his bathroom. He walked to the sink and looked at himself. His eyes widened and he managed to keep his cool for about half second. The scream gave the entire village a very unexpected and unwanted wake-up call. At the same time everyone wondered what the heck was going on. Naruto stepped back in shock as he looked at himself. Or at least he thought it was him. The image in the mirror was taller than he was and a tad bit more muscular. His hair spiked out like it normally did, the whisker marks were slightly faded. What made Naruto's eyes widen though were his eyes. The whites were now black as night and the iris was red and the pupil was slit. It was a side effect of Kyuubi's chakra making the changes. Naruto looked at himself wondering what the heck was going on. Naruto stumbled back and into the kitchen. This was all too crazy to believe. As he stumbled he didn't notice he was backing up to a chair which he promptly fell over. Naruto felt a slight pain in his arm as his arm was cut. He looked down to see a long cut going down the top of his forearm. He then noticed some small black and red tendrils healing the wound. Naruto stared as he remembered seeing someone doing that in a dream he had last night. Naruto got curious. He rose up and lifted an arm. He focused and the tendrils wrapped around his arm again. When they left it showed his arm only black and showing a lot more muscle. If he remembered the man in the dream called this arm form the muscle mass form. He lifted his arm and brought it down on the table. The thing was shattered to splinters. Naruto smirked. Then he started to wonder about the dream he had last night. He turned his mutated arm back to normal. Then he held out his arm and pointed it at the chair. He focused and it floated off the ground. Naruto grinned and the chair shot across the room and broke as it struck the wall. Okay, Naruto said to himself, I can do things I saw in a dream I had. I have no clue how but I like it. Looks like I have to learn to control it first. He was silent for a moment. Then he grinned. Great. I can finally drop my mask. He was referring to this idiot mask he put up. He put it up to make people think he was harmless so they would leave him alone. He didn't know why everyone didn't like him, but he just left it alone. Naruto was about to walk out when he realized that he didn't have anything to wear. Something was yelling at him to get rid of that orange thing he always wore. He knew he couldn't go out in his underwear and the clothes he had were a little small. He also couldn't go into the clothing stores because the owners always chased him out or would only sell him that orange-colored stuff. Naruto was trying to figure out a way to do this when he remembered he could use the transformation technique to take the form of someone else. Or just take a different appearance. He focused his chakra and formed a seal. There was sudden burst of smoke. When it cleared showing a black smooth-haired man with brown eyes and clear skin wearing normal clothes. Naruto walked out of his apartment and headed for the clothing store. Naruto walked in and was glad that no one recognized him in his new appearance. After a bit of shopping Naruto settled with some loose jeans, a red shirt and a black leather jacket. He also grabbed a pair of sunglasses for good measure. After paying for the clothes that were normally priced Naruto walked out and went into a nearby alley where he changed back to normal and put on his new clothes. Naruto then walked out with his new clothes on and his new sunglasses over his changed eyes. As Naruto walked down the road he noticed he was getting looks from certain members of the female populace. Apparently he was much more appealing than in his orange outfit. As Naruto walked he saw a sign that had the image of two crossed swords on it. He figured it was a weapons shop. Naruto remembered that one of the men in his dreams had weapons like that. He figured he could use those, but he had a feeling he wouldn't be able to use them right away since the technology was a few centuries old. He guessed he could buy some regular swords and use those instead. He walked inside and saw weapons of all kinds. Maces, swords, axes, bladed boomerangs and so much more. An old man stepped up at the counter. Hello young man, the man said, how can I help you? Yes, Naruto said, I'm doubting you have this, but I'm looking for a very strange type of sword. A strange kind? The man asked, what kind of sword? A sword, Naruto said, that has a certain color to it and is made of light. The man was quiet. Naruto was afraid that he was crazy. The man looked around and motioned for Naruto to follow him. Naruto followed the man. The two went into the back room. What Naruto saw in there made his eyes widen. There were weapons all over the place. Guns, missiles, and larger ones that looked like they could tear through walls. Are these the swords you speak of? The man asked as he pointed to a pedestal breaking Naruto's train of thought. On the pedestal were two cylinders that looked old and worn out, but they were the ones he saw. Yes, Naruto said, I'm surprised that you actually have them. My family, the man said, has been around for a long time. Any of our earliest ancestors made weapons like these. Stark I think his name was. Anyway we preserve weapons from the old world. These have been in the family longer than any of these. They're old, but I think I can make them work again. Good, Naruto said, do you think you could make an adjustment to them for me? Sure, the man asked taking out a notepad from nowhere, what do you need done? From what I know, Naruto said, the colors of the blade have different effects. I'm planning on being a ninja, but taking time to change crystals could take too long and I don't want to end up getting killed just because of that. I was wondering if you could put the crystals in there and put a mechanism in it that could switch them with the push of a button. The man said scratching his chin, I believe I can do so, but how do you know this? No one has ever even used weapons like this before. Naruto was quiet. He sighed. Then he told the old man everything that he had seen in his dream. Well the stuff with the sword's colors and effects. He stopped when Ace saw the man staring. Now Naruto was thinking that this guy was really thinking he was nuts. Kid, the man stated, I've heard of this a few times. Weapons calling out to those who wield them. From what I can tell it lured you here showing you what the swords could do. I think you're the next person to wield these weapons. Naruto gave a mental sigh of relief. He was glad that this guy didn't think he was nuts. Good, Naruto said, look I was wondering if I could get some regular swords. I guess I should start out with regular swords since I can't use those right away. Finally, the man said, a kid with his head on straight. Go back to the store. I'll think I got something you might find interesting. Naruto did as he was told and walked out. He waited by the counter for a few minutes until the man walked out of the back room with a large bundle. He unwrapped it and revealed two katana swords. They were black with the image of a skull at the bottom of the blades, and the handle was in the shape of a grip. These, the man said, haven't been able to be held by anyone else. If you know about those swords then I think you might be able to use these. Naruto slowly reached out, touched the handles of the blades. Then he lifted them up and held them for a moment. Naruto smiled happily. He looked at the swords and grinned. How much? Naruto asked. Since the cost of the upgrade and fixing those old things will take some time, the old man said, these are on the house. It's the least I can do for you, kid. Naruto smiled and walked out the door with his new sword in an X pattern and sheaths on his back. That kid, the man thought, he doesn't deserve all the flack this village gives him. A little while later. Naruto found an abandoned training ground and started practicing with his swords. He found that this wasn't a very easy thing to do. He needed a sparring partner, but what was the chance of that happening? He was about to pack up and leave when he heard loud shouting. He followed the noise and found a very unusual sight. There were two guys, both of which had large eyebrows, a bowl-cut hairdo, green spandex jumpsuits, and orange leg warmers. With them was a guy with large eyes with no pupil and wore mostly brown, and a girl in a pink shirt with her hair tied in buns. The wide-eyed boy got up and said, someone is watching us. I got him, the girl in pink said as she whipped to a kunai and threw it at the spot where Naruto was. Naruto dodged it to the side. Hey, easy, Naruto said as he got up, I just bought this outfit. Why were you spying on us? The wide-eyed boy asked, who are you? Isn't it polite to give your name first? Naruto asked with a smirk, making the boy growl. Niji. The bun-haired girl growled, sorry about him. My name's Tenten. This is Lee and Guy sensei. It is nice to meet you, friend. Lee yelled as he held out his hand. Naruto promptly shook it. Why were you spying on us? Niji asked again. I thought this place wasn't in use, Naruto said, I only came out here to practice with these. Naruto unsheathed his swords and Tenten stared at them with hearts in her eyes. Beautiful, she said, reaching for it. Naruto promptly slapped away her hand. Mine, Naruto said, pointing his thumb to himself. Tenten huffed and crossed her arms, pouting. You know, Naruto said, I could use a sparring partner. I have this new style I'm working on in both Taijutsu and Kinjutsu. Really? Lee asked, what are these style? The Black Fist style and the Light Blade style, Naruto said. It made sense since those two men's abilities were basically the same. I never heard of either style, Guy said, raising one of his large eyebrows. Did you make them yourself? Naruto just nodded. Then, Guy said, grinning broadly, let us test this style against my student. Lee. The boy who looked like Guy smiled broadly and got into a fighting stance. Naruto shrugged. He handed his swords in their sheaths to Tenten, who hugged them to her body. The two stepped out of the way and Guy rose his hand. Naruto got into a stance as well. Ready, Guy said, fight. Lee charged at Naruto with an incredible speed. Naruto felt alarm bells go off in his head as he saw the boy move at intense speed. Naruto raised an arm just in time to block a punch, but was unprepared for a sudden kick to the stomach, sending him back a bit. Naruto stumbled and clutched his stomach. Man, Naruto growled, you hit hard. Lee grinned and charged again. Naruto was prepared this time. He dodged to the side and threw a punch to Lee's head, sending the boy sideways and tripping over his own feet. But so do I, Naruto said, grinning. Lee wiped his mouth. Finally, Lee said, I have an opponent to test my limits. Lee charged again, and this time Naruto matched Lee's speed, much to the surprise of everyone else. The two exchanged blows for a few moments. Naruto then sent an uppercut to Lee's chin, sending him upward. Naruto jumped up following him and punched him a few more times. Then he brought up both fists and brought them down and nailed Lee in the head, sending him down to the ground. Lee hit the ground hard with a resounding thud. Naruto landed gracefully. Apparently some of the moves that those two used in his dream became his own. He was going solely on instinct in that fight. Lee got up and groaned in pain. A rose up, clutching his arm and looked at Naruto. You are indeed a strong opponent, Lee said, what is your name? Naruto, the blonde answered. Thanks for the fight, Naruto said, that was fun. We should do it again. Lee nodded. He got up and walked over to his team. See you guys sometime, Naruto said, I have somewhere to be. Bye Naruto, Tenten yelled. All the while Niji watched in interest. Niji had his Byakugan on and noticed that Naruto had two sets of chakra coils. The first one was normal, but the second one was strange. It was like chakra, but it flowed more freely. He wasn't even sure if it was chakra at all. He knew that he would be a threat in the future. Later. Naruto was at home sitting on his couch. He was currently in a meditative position and was deep in a trance. Naruto remembered from his dream that he needed to strengthen his bond with something called the Force. He was making progress in the long hours he had been meditating. Right now he was levitating himself in the couch. Naruto felt a presence enter the room and he felt their surprise at the scene. Naruto lowered the couch and himself. "Do you need something?" Naruto asked. He was asking the Anbu that had appeared in his room just a few moments ago. "The Hokage wants to see you," the Anbu said before he vanished in a swirl of leaves. Naruto promptly got up and headed for the door. As he walked out he decided to take a different approach to reach the Hokage's office. He started off walking and then started running. He then focused into his legs and black and red tendrils started running all across his legs. Then he jumped. He jumped high and landed on a nearby building. He ran faster as he ran across the rooftops and jumped from buildings. The few civilians who were watching this were in complete shock. They had never seen anyone run that fast. Naruto saw the tower and jumped really high into the air. He landed with a resounding boom. Naruto then walked into the tower. Naruto was almost immediately recognized by the secretary. "What are you doing here, boy?" The woman growled, "Get out of here before I call Anbu." Naruto narrowed his eyes behind his sunglasses at the woman. Naruto held out a hand and lifted the woman up, making her cry out in surprise. Meanwhile the Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, heard the shout and the next thing he knew his secretary was sent flying into his office along with the door to his office. Naruto stood in the doorway. The secretary looked terrified at Naruto. "Boo," was all Naruto said. The woman screamed and ran out of the office, yelling that the Shinigami was after her soul or some other nonsense like that. "Naruto," the Hokage said, "I'm glad that you could come." "What's up, old man?" Naruto said, "Is it something did?" "Yes," Sarutobi said, "I saw the skills you displayed earlier. Not many are able to gain that much skill in such a short amount of time. Would you mind explaining how you managed that?" Naruto shrugged. He then told the Hokage about the dreams and his changes. He even took off his glasses to show his new eyes that efficiently made the Hokage freak out. Naruto then explained that he had somehow gained these abilities and he knew how to use them in the dreams he had. The fox, Sarutobi realized, apparently he gave Naruto some very interesting abilities. I wonder what their full extent is. "Naruto, would you mind displaying these abilities for me?" the old man asked. "I believe so," Naruto said, "but maybe we should take this to a training ground." A few minutes later the two were at a training ground and Sarutobi made a few shadow clones. "Okay," Sarutobi said, "let's see what you got." Naruto nodded at the old man. Naruto then moved at incredible speed at the clones. The clones stayed perfectly still. Naruto then shifted his, as it was called in his dream, biomass and shifted his arm to their claw form, causing Sarutobi's jaw to drop. Naruto swung his claws with lethal precision, slicing through clone after clone. He shifted his biomass again, this time forming the whip fist. He shot it out and it connected with one of the clones, reeling it in. Naruto shifted his other arm back to normal and placed it on the clone's chest. Red tendrils spread throughout the clone's body as Naruto consumed it. Naruto felt his head throb and Sarutobi moved to help him when he saw Naruto straighten. Naruto saw memories flash through his mind. He then saw the seal that the old man used to form these clones. He also noticed that these clones used more chakra than normal clones. He had a feeling that he would need them later. Naruto turned his attention back to the matter at hand. He shifted his biomass and formed his muscle mass arms. He charged forward, swinging. Each clone was destroyed on impact. Naruto knocked one down and formed a hammer fist with his left arm and brought it down on the clone's head, violently crushing it. Naruto looked at one of the clones and apparently it panicked. It took out a few kunai and threw them at Naruto. Naruto formed a shield with his muscle mass arm and blocked the kunai. Naruto then formed a blade with his other arm and charged and swung it, cutting the clone in half. Naruto shifted his arms back to normal. He looked at the last of the clones. Sarutobi thought that was the end of it when he saw Naruto point his hand at the clones. Suddenly one of the clones started gripping at his throat. He was then lifted into the air. Naruto held out his other hand and a huge bolt of lightning shot from Naruto's fingertips and struck the clone. The clone screamed in pain as its body was electrocuted and then exploded in a puff of smoke. The blonde wasn't done yet. He drew both his swords and looked at the two remaining clones. Naruto drew both back and threw them. The swords spun like saw blades. Naruto used the force to make the blade spin and simultaneously connect with the clone successfully and cut him open. The swords then did a U-turn and headed back at Naruto, who caught them. Sarutobi noticed Naruto grimace. The blonde put the swords back in their sheaths and shook his hand. "Note to self," Naruto said, "be more careful with that move." "Naruto," Sarutobi said, coming out of stupor, "I must say that was impressive." "Thanks, old man," Naruto said, "although there are more to these than I'm aware of. I'm just learning Tem, so don't have more of the advanced stuff down." "Naruto," Sarutobi said, "can anyone else do this?" "No," Naruto said, "I don't think so." "Why?" "Because," the old man explained, "I think I can classify these as bloodlines." Bloodlines? Naruto asked. He wasn't as dumb as everyone thought he was, but he did have trouble paying attention in class. Yes, Saratobi explained, abilities that only belong to someone who had a mutation in their DNA. I think I can classify these abilities as two separate ones. Really? Naruto asked. Yes, the old man said, taking out a book, and since you are the first one to have these abilities you get to name them. Naruto was quiet as he thought of a name for his abilities. Since they belonged to those two, he figured he could at least name the bloodlines after them. The first one I'll call the prototype bloodline, Naruto said. Not really a fancy name, Saratobi said, why pick a name like that? From what I know, Naruto explained, those abilities will keep on going and going. In a constant state of evolution. Alright, Saratobi said, writing down the info, and the other one? I'll call it the Star Killer bloodline, Naruto said, crossing his arms. Okay, Saratobi said, I'll have these input as new bloodlines in the morning. In the meantime you might want to get home and get some sleep. Your final day at the academy is tomorrow. Naruto nodded and ran home. As he did, Saratobi knew that things in the leaf would be getting very interesting. Chapter 2. A new pet and academy. Naruto woke up from his sleep. Kyuubi sent him a few more visions in his sleep. It showed the prototype guy sending out massive waves of tendrils at his enemies. He did the same thing only with spikes coming out of the ground. It also showed Star Killer using the force to lift massive things. He even brought down a huge ship on top of a base and managed to survive. Naruto woke up, washed, ate some toast and scrambled eggs with bacon. And headed out to the academy. Naruto was walking toward the academy when he suddenly smelt something. He recognized the smell as blood. That was when he noticed it was coming from a small patch of the woods. Naruto had a bad feeling as he made his way to the place. Naruto found the place and his eyes went wide in shock. Before lay a large family of foxes. Each one was dead. Among the group was a small blonde baby fox. It was the only one that was still alive. A group of civilians and a few ninja about Chunin in rank were standing around the small animal. They were armed with knives, pipes, and all sorts of makeshift weapons. Naruto felt his anger rise as he saw one of the men raise the pipe he was using as a weapon. Naruto felt something snap. What the hell do you think you're doing? Naruto roared in complete rage. The group turned to Naruto with looks of shock, then their looks changed to anger and disgust. We're finishing off this fox, a civilian yelled, and then we're going to finish you off. The man didn't continue as he felt a huge amount of killing intent aimed at him. Everyone stopped what they were doing to see Naruto sending a lot of killing intent. Red chakra was flowing of him and his sunglasses shattered to show black and red eyes. Your lives, he growled, are over. Naruto vanished. The civilians thought he had run away to get the Hokage. If we can't kill him, one civilian said, raising a pitchfork, then we'll just have the pleasure of killing this one. He looked to see the fox was gone. The guy looked around and then he looked up to see two Narutos up in the air. Both looked angry and one had the fox under his arm. One of the Narutos came down and landed in the middle of the group. He began to focus his biomass. The other Naruto jumped back to a safe distance. The group looked at the boy in shock until Naruto yelled something out. Devastator. Tendril burst. A huge blast of tendrils shot out of Naruto's body. Each one struck the group and tore each of them apart. After a few seconds each one was drawn back and he fell to one knee. After a few seconds and a deep breath Naruto calmed down and rose up. Luckily he managed to consume a few of the chunin. He stood still as his memories filtered. He found a fire jutsu and a water jutsu used by one of them. He even found a few chakra exercises to enhance his chakra control and capacity. Luckily the spot they were in was deep in the woods, so no one knew that they were out there. Plus Naruto had a feeling that the old man was watching. He had a sneaking suspicion that the old man was going to have some Anbu do the same thing. Meanwhile in the Hokage's office. Saratobi stared in shock at what Naruto had done. He was both surprised and shocked that Naruto had done something in such a brutal yet efficient style. He knew that when Naruto mastered these powers there was no one on earth who would be able to stop him. Human or otherwise. Plus it saved him the trouble of sending some Anbu to take care of them. Back with Naruto and little fox baby. The second Naruto walked over to the first Naruto and handed the fox to him. He then burst into smoke. During his demonstration when he consumed a Saratobi clone, he learned the Shadow Clone Jutsu. He was surprised to say that this was the first time he used it and he was surprised he got it down since he had trouble with the clone jutsu. He also learned about the fox. He felt betrayed that the old man hadn't told him, but he would question him about it later. He was snapped from his thoughts when the fox whimpered. He knew the fox was badly injured. Naruto was thinking when he remembered that the techniques in his prototype bloodline came from the guy being infected. He then sent a little bit of his biomass into the small fox. The fox's wound healed and it got up and yipped happily. Naruto petted the fox. Hey little guy, Naruto said, do you want to come with me? I could use a partner. The fox yipped again, licked Naruto's face. Okay little guy, Naruto said smiling, you can come with me. The fox growled a little. Naruto then realized he made a mistake. Sorry, Naruto said, little girl you can come with me. The fox jumped down and started walking at Naruto's feet. The blonde then realized that he had to go to the academy and fast. Naruto then started running as fast as he could. He looked down to see the fox was running right next to him. Wow, that stuff must act fast, Naruto thought. Naruto made his way to the academy. Naruto jumped up to the roof along with his fox. The two then made their way to the academy. While they ran, a few jonin noticed the boy running. That's him. Guy said to the other jonin as he saw Naruto, that's the boy that beat Lee yesterday. Really? Karani Yuhi, a girl with black hair and red eyes, asked. I think that was Naruto. As in the dead last? Asuma asked as he took a drag on his cigarette. Dang. The guy wearing mask and had his headband over his left eye spoke up, I think the exam finals are today. Maybe we should see how much he's improved. The others nodded. Then they started to head for the academy themselves. Naruto had just arrived at his classroom and walked inside. He sat down at his seat and waited for their instructor Iruka to come to the class. While he sat, a boy with red marks on his cheeks and a small puppy came up to him. Hey Naruto. Kiba said, nice look. Oh no, you aren't going emo on us, are you? No, Naruto said, I just decided to go for a change in looks. Dude, Kiba said, what happened to your eyes? Naruto remembered that his glasses broke when he took out those civilians and Chunin. He was hoping to avoid this, but he didn't have a choice. Can you keep a secret? Naruto asked. Kiba nodded. Naruto continued, I awoke a bloodline yesterday. I have an understanding of it, but I don't think I'll use it much seeing as I have no clue what I can do with it. It wasn't completely a lie. Naruto didn't understand all the abilities. He had only seen some of them. Not all of them. Kiba nodded. He noticed the fox pup but didn't pay it any mind. Kiba's dog walked back with him to his desk and the two sat down. Naruto was wondering if he should show his new powers today, but was brought out of his musings by the sound of yelling. Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka had arrived and were currently fighting over who got to sit next to Sasuke Uchiha. The boy was the head of the class and always thought he was better than everyone. Naruto grinned at the thought of running him into the ground. Of course right now he was getting sick of Sakura and Ino yelling at each other and decided to put an end to it. Will you two shut up? Naruto asked for them to hear. The two girls turned to Naruto sitting in the desk behind them. What did you say? Sakura growled in a voice that normally scared him, but to her surprise, kept his eyes closed and kept calm. I said, Naruto repeated, shut up. Sakura growled. She drew back her arm and nailed Naruto in the face. She then pulled back her arm, clutching her fist in pain. Naruto sent a little bit of biomass into his face, causing it to harden. You call that a punch? Naruto asked as he opened his black and red eyes. The colors scared Sakura, while Ino seemed to be entranced by them. This, Naruto said, drawing back his arm, is a punch. Naruto let loose a right hook that nailed Sakura in the face, sending her flying across the room and slamming into the board in front of the classroom. She didn't go through the wall, but she did stay there since she was embedded into it now. Everyone stared in shock at the fact that Naruto just knocked out his crush. Hinata was happy because it seemed that Naruto had gotten over Sakura. Sasuke was looking at Naruto in interest. He had never seen that kind of strength before. He wanted to know how Naruto got it. Before he could, however, two men entered the room. One was a tan man with brown hair and a scar across his nose. The other was pale and had silver hair. The first one was Iruka and the second was Mizuki. They were the instructors for the class. Attention students, Iruka said in a calm voice. Nobody listened. He then did his scary big head jutsu and yelled, shut up you stupid brats. I wonder how he does that. Naruto thought. Now then, Iruka said as he calmed down, it's time for the finals. Those of you who pass will become full-fledged ninja. Now for the first portion, the written test. Everyone groaned. Iruka handed out the tests and things began. Around this time Sakura had pried herself out of the wall and was sending a huge death glare at Naruto. Naruto just ignored her as she went to her seat. Naruto looked over his test and felt something was off. He felt like his test was being messed with. He had a sneaking suspicion. He used the force to read some people's minds. He found that some people were answering questions, but they didn't match up with his. He then read Iruka's. I hope Naruto passes this year, the scarred Chunin thought. Naruto knew that it wasn't him that was messing with him. He then turned it to Mizuki. With the Jinjutsu I said over that demon brat's test he's sure to fail. Then I'll trick him into stealing the forbidden scroll, then I can kill him and take the glory for it. I'll be a hero and I'll be able to have the power of the scroll for myself. Naruto clenched his fist for under the table as he heard that. He couldn't expose him, but he could get him later. Naruto then went through the memories of the chunin he had consumed earlier when saving his fox. After going through the memories he found a memory. Memory. When caught in a genjutsu there are at least two ways to free yourself from it. First is you can hurt yourself. Second you can form a ram seal and say kai. This should release you from the genjutsu. Then memory. Naruto put his hands under the desk and formed a ram seal. He whispered kai. As soon as he did the test changed and from what Naruto had taken from people's minds it was the right test. He smirked as he started answering questions. A few times he had to go through memories to find an answer, but he managed to answer them all. After everyone was done Iruka and Mizuki took up the tests. Okay, Iruka said, now that is out of the way let's head outside for the target and Taijutsu portion of the test. Everyone got up and headed outside. As they made their way the fox Naruto had leapt up onto his shoulder. Naruto smiled at it and the fox seemed to grin back at him. As everyone exited the building they noticed a few jonin waiting for them. What are you guys doing here? Mizuki asked. Oh, Kakashi said with his nose in his book, we came to see who this part of the test. Helps us know who we want for our teams. Iruka nodded as did Mizuki. When they got outside they started the target portion. While Naruto leaned against a tree and watched one of the girls approached him. She was brunette with green eyes. Hey Naruto? She asked. Yeah, Naruto responded. I was wondering, she asked fidgeting a little, would you like to go out sometime? Sorry, Naruto said, but I'm not looking for a relationship right now. The girl looked upset that he rejected her, but she kept her chin up and walked over to the group since it was her turn. Naruto, Iruka called, you're up. Naruto grinned as he stepped up the post. He heard a few people snicker as they saw him walk up. He heard them say something about needing a good laugh. Naruto whipped out a few kunai and threw them at the target. Apparently he got his ancestors' aim since everyone hit the target. Everyone stared jaw and bug-eyed. The jonin were also shocked at the show of skill. Naruto then decided to show of some of his own skills. Naruto drew both of his swords. A lot of people especially a sickly swordsman stared at the twin blades. Naruto focused chakra into the blades and a little bit of force power. The blades hummed slightly. Naruto then drew them back and let them fly. To everyone's shock the blades spun like saws and as they hit the dummy they cut right through it. Naruto used the force to make the blades turn around in midair and fly right back at him. Naruto held out his hands and promptly caught them. Iruka dropped the clipboard he was using to keep score and everyone else looked like their jaws were about to unhinge. Naruto put the swords back in their sheaths. As he walked away Sasuke walked up to him. Where did you get those swords? He asked in an I'm superior to you tone. I got them at a weapons shop, Naruto said crossing his arms, why do you want to know? I want them, was Sasuke's answer. Sorry buddy, Naruto said, but you can't have them. Oh, Sasuke growled, I command you to. That's enough cough cough, said a voice. They both turned to see a sickly man wearing a jonin outfit. I'm getting what's mine, Sasuke said to the man, get lost. Those sword cough don't belong to you, the sickly said, and he doesn't have to give them cough to you. Sasuke growled and walked off. Naruto shook his head at the Uchiha boy. Thanks man, Naruto said to the man. No problem cough, the man said, my name is Hade and I know what a sword means to someone. A fellow swordsman huh? Naruto asked receiving a nod, well if I get a team I hope it's with you. I could use some sword moves myself. Hade grinned and walked back to the group of jonin. Now that that's out of the way, Iruka said getting everyone's attention, it's time for the Taijutsu portion. Sasuke smirked at Naruto. He knew that this would be his chance to beat Naruto and take those swords from him. Iruka went inside and came back out with a small device that had a big ball filled with a bunch of smaller balls. Whoever's name comes out of these two balls, Iruka said, will fight in a Taijutsu match. Understand? All the students nodded at their teacher. Alright then. Let's begin. Mizuki turned the crank on the side of the device and the balls inside were all shifted around. After a few seconds the names Kiba Inuzuka and Choji Akimichi came out. Alright. Kiba cheered, we get to take on the fat guy. Sadly Choji was able to hear that. The boy growled and stomped over to the sparring ring, leaving small cracks in the ground and causing the ground to shake with each step. Kiba ran over to the ring and got ready and faced the big bone ninja. Begin, Mizuki yelled. Kiba charged and ready to fight. Unfortunately Choji threw a punch at the last second, nailing the Inuzuka in the face. Kiba was knocked to the ground and then Choji sat on him. Man that had to hurt. Choji was named the winner though it was hard to say since Kiba was still trying to wrestle himself out from under the young Akimichi. The next two names were Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka. The two girls basically engaged in a typical cat fight. There was screaming, scratching, and hair pulling. In other words a lot of guys were staring. Naruto and Sasuke weren't thought. Naruto didn't because he thought it was shameful to the normal kunoichi. Sasuke didn't watch because he was just not interested in a fight between two weak fangirls. The next match was Shikamaru Nara and Shino Aburam. Shikamaru, being the lazy genius that he was, just withdrew as soon as the match started. It made practically everyone sweat drop at the fact. There were three things known about a Nara clan. 1. The men of the clan were completely lazy. 2. The men in the clan were usually murdered by their wives. 3. They were usually geniuses. The most obvious of the three was of course number 1 in the list. The other matches were just downright boring. Then the names of the final match were drawn. Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke smirked arrogantly at the fact that he would be able to beat Naruto. Now I'll be able to prove that I'm top dog to this weird-eyed loser. That stopped in his thoughts. Did I just quote Kiba? Sasuke shook it off as he ran to the sparring ring. Naruto walked over in a bored fashion and leaned his sword up against a fence. "Oh Sasuke." One of the Uchiha's fangirls yelled out. "Yeah." Another one called, "Tear that dead last down to size." A few people stared incredulously at the fangirls. With what Naruto had done the past tests, they still thought he was the dead last. Apparently fangirls can't accept the fact that someone might be better than the person that they worship. "A week's pay says Sasuke wins," said one of the jonin who didn't like Naruto. "A month's pay says Naruto wins," Guy said, shocking everyone. "I think I'll go with Guy on that bet," Kakashi said, putting away his book. Kurenai, Asuma, a jonin named Genma, Hate, and two girls named Anko and Yuigao all agreed to bet on Naruto for a month's pay. "Ready?" Mizuki asked the two competitors. "Begin." Sasuke charged at Naruto, who just stood there. At the last second Naruto jumped up, avoiding Sasuke's punch. Naruto landed on the other side of the Uchiha and threw a strong punch. The result was the Uchiha crying out in pain as the strong hit struck his back. "Oh no Sasuke." Sakura and Ino cried out. Sasuke stumbled as he felt intense pain spread through his back. He turned and glared at the blonde who was grinning up a storm. Sasuke charged again, yelling out a battle cry. Naruto crouched and unleashed a strong uppercut. "It's over," Guy said. Everyone looked at him and then looked at Naruto. The blonde jumped up after Sasuke and gave him a few more punches. Then Naruto brought his hands together and brought them down on Sasuke's head. The Uchiha was sent down into the ground. Naruto lifted up his leg, still in midair, and dropped down on Sasuke. The boy screamed in pain as Naruto's heel crashed into his stomach and sent him deeper into the ground. At that moment the last Uchiha blacked out. Naruto walked off the field smirking at his victory. "Naruto!" came the angry yell of both Sakura and Ino. Naruto saw the two charging. Naruto just stood there. The two swung and Naruto promptly caught both fists and bent the arms behind the respective girl's back and had them kissing the dirt. "Listen you two," Naruto growled, "I don't care who you think you are or who you think will marry you in the future. If you so much as try that again, the only thing they'll find will be a few drops of blood. Am I clear?" The two whimpered, "Why yes." "Good," the blonde said in a much nicer tone as he let them both go. The class then walked into the school to go back to the classroom for the final portion of the test. Those that made the bets for Naruto turned to the ones who betted against us. "You guys owe us each a month's pay," Kakashi said with a smirk visible behind his mask. The one who lost the bet were crying in tears because they had lost a huge amount of money. Back in the classroom, Naruto was looking around. He couldn't find his little friend. It was then that he noticed that his little fox wasn't there. He looked around and heard giggling. He located the source. The source was a couple of girls cuddling the little fox. The fox was purring, if foxes do purr, at the affection. When it saw Naruto it yipped and ran over to him and rubbed up against his leg. "Is that little cutie yours?" one of the girls asked. "Yes," Naruto answered, picking the fox up. "What's her name?" another girls asked. Naruto had never really considered a name. He thought for a few minutes. "I'm thinking Hitomi," Naruto said. The fox yipped happily at the name. "Okay, Hitomi it is." "Alright everyone, take your seat," Iruka said as the group separated. "For the final portion of the test," Iruka said, "you will be tested on the 3 basic jutsu." Naruto smirked as he heard this. He had always had trouble in the past because of the clone jutsu. Since he had a clone technique this time, he was completely sure that it would work. Naruto came out of his thoughts to see Sakura walk out of the examination room with a headband on. Naruto groaned as he saw that. Sasuke was called in next, and a few minutes later he came back out wearing a headband. Naruto groaned again. He cringed as his fan club screamed in happiness. "Naruto," Iruka called. Naruto walked in and stood before Iruka and Mizuki. "Alright Naruto," Iruka said, "first transform into someone." Naruto transformed into the third Hokage. He didn't want to reveal his abilities just yet, so he decided to use a regular transformation. Naruto could sense Iruka's surprise and Mizuki's slight frustration. "Good," Iruka said, "now switch performer replacement." Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke. In his place was a chair. Mizuki cried out when he was suddenly lifted off the ground by Naruto. He cried out again when he was unceremoniously dropped on his butt. Iruka was doing his best not to laugh and was failing at the moment. "Very good," Iruka said, writing down the results while Mizuki got his chair and sat down glaring at the blonde. "Now perform the clone jutsu." "Iruka-sensei," Naruto asked, "does it matter what kind of clone it is?" "No," Iruka answered with a raised eyebrow. Naruto formed a cross-hand sign and 4 Narutos appeared in puff of smoke. Iruka dropped his pencil and Mizuki felt his jaw drop. All the Narutos grinned at the looks on their faces. "Congratulations, Naruto," Iruka said, smiling broadly, "you pass." He handed Naruto his headband and Naruto put it on his head. He walked out and Kiba walked up and smiled. "Alright man, you passed." Kiba yelled, giving Naruto a high five. "Yeah," Naruto said, "I guess third time really is the charm." "Seems that way," Kiba said, smirking. "Well," Naruto said, "since I don't have anyone to wait for, I'm going to bed." "Hey man," Chaoji yelled after him, seeing Naruto leave, "don't forget that we have to come here again for team assignment in 2 days." Naruto nodded and waved goodbye to his friends. As he headed for the door, he walked past Sakura and Ino. Both girls flinched as he walked past, expecting him to hurt them or something. "Ladies," was all Naruto said as he walked past them. The two looked at each other for a moment and then where Naruto had gone. "What a strange weird boy," they both said. Naruto walked home, ignoring the stares as he walked home. When he arrived at home, he saw there was a package at his door. Naruto raised an eyebrow as he never really received anything as a gift from anyone. Most of the stuff he got before were traps made by angry ninjas. Naruto stepped over it and, after making sure that no one was looking, he used the force to lift it, bring it in. He laid it down on the table and scanned it with the force. He didn't sense anything strange. To be on the safe side, he used the force to unwrap it. As he did, he gasped in shock. In the box were the 2 lightsabers he had ordered from the old man in the weapons store. They were different from regular lightsabers though. It was still in the cylinder shape, but it had a grip on it, with a part going over the finger to keep someone from hitting the fingers. The top of the cylinder had small red button and below that was a black switch. Naruto took one into his grip. He pushed on the switch and nothing happened. He pressed the red button and a crimson blade energy blade came out with a snap hiss. The energy blade also seemed to resemble the blade of an actual sword. Naruto then noticed a note ad in the bottom of the package. Naruto picked it up and read it. "Dear Naruto. Yes, I know who you are. Since I had to fix these up, I decided to make some improvements. The thing for your fingers to fit through should help with your grip. If they get in the way though, they can be taken off. In case you don't know, the red button is what activates the blade and the black switch changes the colors of the crystals. I found an old scroll that I think my grandfather had and it had the info on what colors were needed. You have no idea how hard it was to find some of the colors needed for this. On a side note, since these weapons seem to be like the Raijin, I decided to model the blade after that. I hope that you are able to use these to your liking. So live you with this quote from my favorite TV show. Live long and prosper. Oh, and before I forget, there is a small thing in the box that will allow you to connect these to the back of your belt. That jacket's just long enough to hide them. Signed, Dan Aka, the old guy from the weapons shop." Naruto smiled as he read this. He was shocked that the old man knew who he was, but was glad that he finally had someone who wouldn't overcharge him for stuff. It made him happy. Naruto found the device. It was basically a belt buckle with 2 rings on it. Naruto attached it to the back of his belt and attached his lightsabers to them. "Okay," Naruto thought, "I think I'll try these babies out on Mizuki team tonight." Cut. "Just kidding, I'm not that evil." Naruto waited until night fell. He sensed a disturbance in the force and leapt out his window. Naruto activated the thermal vision from his prototype bloodline and scanned until he found a lone figure with a large scroll on his back heading for the forest. Naruto smirked. He ran toward the traitor with a smirk on his face. Looks like he would get to test out a few more of his powers. But the traitor. Mizuki mentally laughed as he lost his pursuers. Finally, Mizuki thought with an insane smile, with the power of the Forbidden Scroll and Orochimaru-sama's power, I will be unstoppable. Of course, you'll still have to get away, a voice in his head said. Before Mizuki had a chance to comprehend that someone else's voice had just been in his head, he was struck in the back. He screamed in pain as he was knocked into a tree. He looked up to see Naruto standing in a tree above him. "You?" Mizuki yelled in anger, "How did you find me?" "It wasn't that hard," Naruto said, "I can smell insanity from a mile away." Mizuki smiled suddenly and looked up at Naruto. "Naruto," Mizuki sneered, "do you want to know why you're hated? Why everyone ignores you?" "I'll bite," Naruto said, knowing where this was going. "Why?" 13 years ago, Mizuki explained, the 9-tailed fox attacked our village, as you know. You also know that the demon was killed. This was a lie. The Yondaime couldn't kill it, so he sealed it inside a newborn baby. He sealed it in you. You are the 9-tailed fox that attacked our village." Naruto was silent. Iruka arrived unable to stop Mizuki from telling Naruto. The two looked at Naruto in silence. Suddenly Naruto started to laugh. "What's so funny, boy?" Mizuki asked. "Nothing," Naruto said, "just the fact that you think that I'm the fox. You must be as stupid as you look. I already know about the fox. I figured it out just earlier. I'm not that fox, I know that much." Mizuki was in shock. He was expecting Naruto to go into shock or start denying it or start crying. In that state he could easily kill him. Iruka was also shocked but glad that Naruto didn't think he was a monster. "I also know," Naruto continued, "that I'm supposed to kill traitors to my village." "You can't kill me," Mizuki yelled, taking a Fuma shuriken off his back. He threw it at Naruto. Naruto simply sidestepped to avoid it. The blonde grinned at the silver-haired man, making him growl. At that moment the Hokage showed up with a group of loyal Anbu. "Hey old man," Naruto yelled, "you're just in time for the show." "Wouldn't dream of missing it, Naruto," the old man yelled. "Hokage-sama, are you nuts?" Iruka asked. "Mizuki will kill him." "Actually," the old man said, "I'd be more worried about that traitor." "Naruto. Feel free to use your special skills." The Anbu and Iruka looked at the Hokage questioningly, then looked down at the two combatants with looks of curiosity. Mizuki growled and took a second Fuma shuriken off his back. He threw it at Naruto, who didn't even move. Naruto held out a hand. Then to everyone's surprise the shuriken stopped in midair. Everyone gaped in shock. The Hokage looked uninterested. Naruto sent the shuriken flying back with a force push. The extra boost made it fly fast, and Mizuki jumped to the side to avoid the thing. "Is that all you got, boy?" Mizuki taunted. "You wish." Naruto yelled back as he jumped up after Mizuki. The blonde got in close and held out his hand. The next thing everybody knew, Naruto shot out a few bolts of lightning from his hand. Mizuki screamed in pain as the electricity surged through his body. He hit the ground, twitching slightly because of the electricity flooding his system. Everyone felt their jaw drop. A few of the Anbu were currently pinching themselves to see if they were awake and that this wasn't some really weird dream. Naruto crossed his arms. Mizuki rose up from the ground and glared at the blonde, rage and insanity burning in both of his eyes. "You brat." Mizuki yelled, "No mere fresh out of the academy genin is going to get the best of me." Mizuki then transformed. He grew larger until he was about twice his normal size. He grew orange fur with black stripes. The tiger man growled and charged at Naruto. Naruto was quick to react and jumped over the man. He shifted his arm to their claw form and swung at Mizuki's back. Mizuki jumped up to avoid them. Mizuki came back down and landed a hard punch to Naruto's head. The blonde hit a tree hard. A little bit of pain ran through Naruto's arm as he got up. He twisted his arm till it cracked and he glared at the monster that was once Mizuki. "Okay, catboy," Naruto snarled, "you're asking for it." Naruto shifted his arms back to normal and took out the two lightsabers from behind his jacket. "Ha!" Mizuki laughed, "What are those toys supposed to do?" Snap hiss. Mizuki's eyes went wide as he beheld two Raijin in Naruto's hands. The other spectators felt their eyes widen as well. The only one who had a weapon like that was the Nidaime. How did Naruto manage to get two of them? "Before you ask," Naruto said, reading everyone's mind, which had the same thought, "these are what the Raijin was based off of. Or at least I think it was. Anyway, back to the matter at hand." Naruto ran at Mizuki with his lightsabers drawn. Mizuki swung his claws and Naruto swung his lightsaber. The two stood on the other side of each other. There was a tense silence for a few moments. The next thing everyone knew, a few slash marks appeared on Naruto's chest. Mizuki smirked to himself, then his eyes widened. He screamed out in pain as his arm suddenly fell off. The pain and shock made him turn back to his normal self. He clutched the stump that was once his shoulder. Naruto stood up as red and black tendrils ran across his chest and healed his wound and his clothes. He turned to the Hokage. "Hey old man," Naruto said, "isn't there a law against mentioning the Kyuubi?" "Yes," the old man said, smirking, "I believe the punishment for breaking that law is death, and I believe he broke that law when this fight began." "Permission to execute?" Naruto asked. "Granted," the Hokage said. Naruto grinned as he walked over to Mizuki's body. The man was in too much pain to do anything. Naruto placed a hand on his head. Naruto then used the force to pry some information out of him. He drew all the information he could on this Orochimaru character. After that Naruto started to consume him. However, just as he was about to, his force sensed something off. It sensed something dark in the man. The force told Naruto that if he consumed him, the darkness may try to take over his body. Naruto then got a wicked idea. Naruto placed his hand on Mizuki's chest. Suddenly red and black tendrils spread over Mizuki's body. The man screamed in pain as the tendrils ate away at him. Naruto wasn't consuming him, but he was having the tendrils break Mizuki down. Mizuki screamed in pain. At least until the tendrils ate his lungs. After a minute there was nothing left but a few drops of blood. The tendrils returned to Naruto's arm. Naruto then walked over and picked up the forbidden scroll. He handed it to the Hokage, who smiled gratefully. "Congratulations," the old man said, "Naruto, you have just completed your first mission. You will receive pay for an A-rank mission. Now go home, I have some explaining to do to my Anbu and to your teacher here." The blonde nodded and then jumped up into the trees and went home. Chapter 3. Council, Teams and a Test. It had been about a week since Naruto fought and killed Mizuki I the Forest. In that time Naruto had grown stronger in the use of his powers. Naruto was going over some moves for his new lightsaber and found he could transfer his force lightning power through the blades and not only extend them but give them the ability to electrocute his enemies. He was looking forward to doing that. Hitomi had changed as well. Naruto found out that she could mutate at will into a larger creature. She had also grown. She was now the size of a wolf and had the temper to match. The creature stuck to its fox form normally and for good reason. Naruto had seen its mutated form and long story short, it was not pretty. At the moment Naruto was eating a bowl of cereal for breakfast when an Anbu appeared suddenly. Hitomi, who was sleeping on the floor nearby, yipped out in surprise and fell over. "Naruto Uzumaki," the Anbu said, "the council requests your presence." "Request?" Naruto asked, "You sure it wasn't demand, command or get that damn demon in here now?" The Anbu shrugged and vanished in a swirl of leaves. Naruto finished his breakfast and ran out to the tower to find out what exactly it was that the council wanted from him. A few minutes later Naruto walked in through the door to the council chambers. Hitomi had stayed outside since the sight of a wolf-sized fox would probably freak a few people out since a lot of civilians weren't really that fond of the animal after the Kyuubi attack. As the fox sat down, some of the children who were walking by noticed a dog-like creature and walked up to it. Meanwhile, on the inside walked into the council room. Before he entered he heard the sounds of arguments and yelling. As soon as the blonde entered, the argument stopped and a thick silence filled the air. The blonde looked out at the council. Half of which looked at him with hate. The rest just looked impassive. "Is there a reason you interrupted my breakfast for this?" Naruto said, crossing his arm. "Watch your tongue, boy," Himura growled, "you will treat those of us on the council with respect." "You'll have my respect when you learn it," Naruto growled at the old advisor. The shinobi side of the council smirked at the fact that the council advisors were finally being put into her place. It was funny that they were being put in their place by a little kid. "So why is it you called me here for?" Naruto asked in a more respectful tone to the old fire shadow. "The council here wishes to talk to you about the encounter with Mizuki the night the forbidden scroll was stolen," the old fire shadow explained. He had a feeling that someone had been watching. "What would you like to know?" Naruto asked, though he had a feeling he already knew what they wanted. "We," Hiashi explained, "wished to know what exactly it was that you were doing at that time of night." "Well," Naruto explained, "when I was taking my exam I noticed something strange with Mizuki. He seemed like he was up to something. But I couldn't figure out what. I didn't pay it any mind until later last night when I heard that the forbidden scroll had been stolen. I looked around and saw Mizuki running with a team of Anbu and a few Jonin on his tail, so I figured I'd try to do something." "According to the report, you used weapons that were similar to the Raijin," said a man wrapped in bandages on the civilian council. Naruto looked at the man, had a different feeling off him. Unlike the rest of the civilian council, he didn't give a bad vibe. In truth, it was because he didn't. Danzo was a smart man. He could tell a monster from a human, unlike the rest of the civilian council. A few years ago Danzo tried to get Naruto into his Root Anbu training program. The Roots were the SWAT teams of the Anbu. Unfortunately Sarutobi mistook his intentions. The Root were usually trained to abandon all emotions. Unfortunately Itachi Uchiha, who was one of the ninja who took the training, went rogue and massacred his clan. After that Danzo re-evaluated his idea on his training tactics. Besides, he knew that an emotionless Jinchuriki was as bad as an unstable one or worse. "I do have such weapons in my possession," Naruto said. "May we see them?" Sarutobi asked. He already knew about them, but he was trying to play dumb for the moment. Naruto reached under his jacket and pulled out his light swords. Naruto decided to rename them that because the blades were more sword-like than the old versions. "How did you come across these weapons?" asked a rather curious civilian consilmember. "I found them the ruins of an old base," Naruto lied. "I found a weapon shop and the owner fixed them up. It took him a while, but he managed to get them in working order." "Are there any more of these weapons?" Danzo asked. He knew that with weapons like this the village would be strong. "Sorry," Naruto said, "from what I can tell the base I found these in the base was destroyed in an attack. From what I can tell most of the weapons and devices in the place were completely destroyed. After I left the base collapsed and everyone was gone. From what I can tell these are the only kind of weapons like this in the world save for the Raijin." The civilian council deflated at the thought of such weapons being lost forever. The shinobi side looked happy about it, however. If the civilian council got a hold of it, they would probably give it to Sasuke, and they knew that that would be a very bad idea. They were also glad because an enemy village wouldn't get their hands on weapons like that because then they would be in some rather deep crud. Then, a civilian council member spoke, "We order you to give those weapons to us so that we may make them ourselves." "That can't be done," Naruto said. "The man who examined the weapons found that the alloy used to make these are completely alien to us, as well as the tech to make them. From what I can tell these were made in the old world before the age of ninja." The council was shocked as they heard this. They never found any weapons from before that came from the old world. "Then you will give them to Uchiha-sama," said another councilman who got a dark look from the Naruto. "These," Naruto growled, "belong to me and me alone. If you try to take, I'll show you just how destructive these weapons can be." The killing intent Naruto was leaking was enough to make the civilian council start to sweat. The shinobi council was smirking at the fact that his kid was putting them in their place. Naruto then looked at the clock in the corner of the room and said, "Now if you'll excuse me, I don't want to be late for team placements." Naruto then walked out the door and headed outside. He found Hitomi being petted by a bunch of kids. Naruto shook his head as he looked at his combat partner. He whistled and said, "Hey Hitomi, we got to go." The large fox nodded its head and rose up despite the upset cries of the children. The two then made their way to the academy. The two ran alongside each other and mated. The two walked into the classroom and sat down. While Naruto sat down, Tiomi laid down in the aisle. "All right students," Iruka said as he walked in the room, "I would like to congratulate those of you who made it this far and will be joining teams today. Now let's begin. Team 1 will be." Naruto didn't really pay attention until Iruka reached Team 7. Team 7 will consist of Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. Your sensei will be Kakashi Haddock. Naruto groaned while Sakura cheered for being on a team with her beloved Sasuke. Sasuke just grunted and went back to his usual brooding. Team 8 will consist of Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka and Shino Abiram. Your sensei will be Kurina Yuuhi. Minato nodded a little meekly, Kiba cheered and Akamaru barked happily. Shino just pulled a Shino and stayed silent. Team 9 is in rotation from last year. Team 10 will consist of Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akamichi. Ino cried out in dismay over not being on a team with Sasuke and being stuck with the fat guy and the lazy boy. Shikamaru just mumbled troublesome and Choji just ate away at his bag of chips. "You will wait here until your teachers arrive," Iruka said. "Since this is the last time I see you, I'll give you this little tidbit of info before you leave. Do anything to humiliate this village and even hell won't be able to save you from me." With those unnerving words, the scarred Chunin walked out the door. After a few minutes, a few Jonin walked into the room. Naruto recognized them as the ones that they saw when he and Sasuke fought. "Team 8 with me," said a black-haired woman with red eyes. The team's respective members rose up and left with her. "Team 10 with me," said a guy with a beard and smoking a cigarette. The other Jonin called out their team's number and they all left. The only ones left were the members of Team 7. A group waited and waited and waited until nearly 2 hours had passed. Sakura groaned out loud in frustration. "What is taking this guy so long?" she asked out loud. "I don't know, but his excuse had better be good," Naruto growled out, "otherwise I'm going to have to hurt the jerk." "For once dope," Sasuke said, "you and I are at an agreement." Naruto got an idea. He looked at Hitomi and using the force sent a mental message to the young fox. The fox got up and stood near the door. After a few seconds the sounds of footsteps reached the young Genin's ears. After a few seconds a man with gravity-defying silver hair, a mask, and with his headband that covered one eye entered the room. "Hey, is this Team Yo?" He was cut off by Hitomi sinking her teeth into the man's leg and clamping down hard on his leg. The man screamed like a little girl and was hobbling around on one leg trying to get the large red fox off. Naruto smirked and chuckled a bit at the man's misfortune. Sakura was just plain laughing out loud and Sasuke was actually chuckling a bit. Naruto snapped his fingers and Hitomi let go of Kakashi's leg. He then glared at the three in front of him. "My first impression of you three is that I hate you all," Kakashi said as the three stopped laughing. "Meet me on the roof." Kakashi vanished in a swirl of leaves and the three genin got up and walked up to the roof so they could meet their sensei. The three students got to the roof and sat down on a conveniently placed bench in front of their sensei. "Okay," Kakashi said, "let's get started with introductions. Tell me your name, likes, dislikes, and dreams for the future." "Why don't you start, sensei?" Sakura asked. "Fine," Kakashi said, "my name is Kakashi Haddock. My likes none of your business, my dislikes also none of your business, my dreams not telling you that either." All he told us was his name. All three kids thought at the same time. "Okay," Kakashi said pointing at Sakura, "your turn Pinky." Sakura huffed at the nickname but said, "My name is Sakura Haruno. My likes are, looks at Sasuke and giggles, my dislikes are Ino Pig and Naruto Baka. My dream for the future. She looks at Sasuke and squeals. Oh great, a fangirl, Kakashi thought, please let the other two be normal. Your turn, King of Brood, the silver-haired Jonin said, pointing at Sasuke. My name is Sasuke Uchiha, Sasuke said in his usual tone, I dislike pretty much everything, my likes are everything I don't dislike and learning new jutsu. My dream, no, my ambition is to kill a certain man. He's so cool, Sakura thought. Oh brother, Naruto thought. Oh great, Kakashi mentally groaned, an Avenger. Please let the last one be normal. Your turn, Mr. Dark and Blonde, Kakashi said, pointing at Naruto. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto said in a calm tone, my likes are my friends, Hitomi Chan said. Fox barks at being acknowledged, Raymond, and a certain weapons expert. My dislikes are fangirls, emos, idiots, and certain people. My dreams are to master my skills, become the strongest I can and make a name for myself, and if I can become Hokage. Yes. Kakashi mentally yelled, I have a normal one on my team. If these two get out of line, Naruto here might be able to keep them in line. Okay, Kakashi said, we're done here for now. Meet me at training ground 7 tomorrow so we can take the Genin test. But sensei, Sakura said, we already took the test. Sakura, Naruto said, the test we took was just to weed out the weaker of the Genin. If my guess is right, then this is to test us as Genin in the field. Correct, Kakashi said, meet me at the training ground around 8. Oh, and I would recommend skipping breakfast unless you want to barf it all back up. But that Kakashi vanished again in a swirl of leaves. The group got up and individually went home. Well, Naruto and Sasuke tried to go home. Sakura tried to get a date with Sasuke and was promptly rejected as usual. Naruto shook his head and jumped off the roof. Sakura and Sasuke looked at each other and ran over to the side and looked over to see Naruto walking away like nothing was wrong and he hadn't even jumped. The two looked at each other shocked and then back at Naruto. Sasuke, realizing he was alone with Sakura, quickly snuck away. Around this time Sakura realized that they were alone and looked to see the boy was gone. Growling in anger at her missed opportunity, she stormed home. Meanwhile, Naruto was running through the forest. He did this since the original owner of the prototype bloodline had a thing for running and being free. He didn't like being cooped up. Hitomi stopped next to the blonde as he stopped to take a quick breather. The boy leaned against a tree as he caught his breath. I need some new skills, Naruto thought. The abilities I have are strong, but I need a way to further them. If I remember right, my ancestor got that claw power from absorbing a, what was it? Oh, a hunter. I wonder. Naruto was cut off from his thoughts when he felt something crawl on his shoulder. He turned to see a chameleon crawling across his shoulder. Naruto smirked as he caught the thing in his hand. Naruto then focused his biomass and consumed the small creature. Naruto then searched its DNA for the gene that allowed it to change color and blend in. The blonde smirked as he saw his skin and clothes turn invisible. Hitomi looked a little freaked out as she couldn't see her master, but could still smell him. Naruto turned visible and grinned to himself. Alright. Naruto thought, okay, so I can consume animals to get some adaptation that they have. Now what to call this one? Cloak skin? No, that's dumb. Chameleon skin. Yeah, that's got a nice ring to it. Naruto then headed home to rest up for his test with Kakashi tomorrow. As Naruto ate, wondered if the man would actually show up on time. He figured and wouldn't. It was at that time that remembered that he said not to eat breakfast. Naruto knew that not eating a meal could become a major handicap in the field. Naruto realized it was a trick. Naruto felt himself smirk as he saw through his sensei's deception. After that, he spent the rest of the day relaxing and then went to bed with Hitomi sleeping on the floor of his room. The next day at 8 a.m. Sasuke and Sakura both showed up at training ground 7, waiting for their sensei and Naruto. That idiot isn't here, Sakura said, stating the obvious. He probably forgot or didn't even know where to go. HN, was all Sasuke said, or grunted, or whatever it is you do when you make that noise. Later at 9:58 a.m. Naruto arrived at that time and Sakura decided to voice her displeasure. You're late. Sakura yelled at the boy. Naruto just looked at her silently and then moved closer to her face and then. Belch. Sakura stepped back holding her nose as the smell of cheese and garlic hit her in the face. She backed up trying to get the smell out of her nose and failing at the moment. Where have you been? Sasuke asked. Wow, it talks, Naruto said, making Sasuke glare at him. I was getting something to eat. There's actually this restaurant that serves this weird food called Italian. I must admit whoever came up with that stuff knew what they were doing. It was delicious. You ate? Sakura asked as she got the smell of garlic out of her nose. Kakashi told us not to eat. He recommended that we not eat, Naruto said. He didn't order us to not eat. Besides, I'm not late. Kakashi-sensei isn't here, so I'm on time. You two were really early. At that moment the silver-haired Jonin appeared. Hey, was all he said. You're late. Sakura yelled, much angrier than she was at Naruto. "I'm sorry," Kakashi apologized, "I got lost on the road of life." "Makes sense," Naruto said, crossing his arms, "the road of life has many twists and turns." The three present looked at Naruto with a weird look. Kakashi was in shock because someone had just countered his usual excuse. Sakura and Sasuke both looked at Naruto in shock since he sounded really smart when he said that. "Well," Kakashi said, "since everyone is here we can begin the test." Kakashi took out two bells from out of nowhere and attached them to the back of his belt. "The test is simple," Kakashi said, taking out a timer from out of nowhere. "You have to get these bells from me before noon. That gives you less than 2 hours to get them. Should be enough time. Each one of you who gets a bell passes. Each person who doesn't will be sent back to the academy." The three and the fox in front of them nodded. Sakura then noticed something. "But sensei," she said, "there are 2 bells." "Correct," Kakashi said, "that means one of you will not be continuing on." "I know who that will be," Sasuke and Sakura both said at the same time. Naruto thought, sneaky. This is to test our teamwork. I should have guessed he had a trick up his sleeve for this. Looks like those two haven't figured out. For the number 1 Kunoichi and the rookie of the year, they are idiots. "You ready?" Kakashi asked, getting nods from everyone, even Hitomi. "Go." The 3 genin and the fox vanished as they hid in the underbrush. With Naruto and Hitomi. "What do we do, master?" Hitomi mentally asked. Since Naruto was the one who mutated her, the fox was able to speak telepathically with Naruto. It freaked Naruto out the first time she did that, but he had gotten used to it after a while. "We wait," Naruto answered, "let's see how these guys do." But Sakura. The pincat was tearing through the underbrush trying to find Sasuke. Of course Kakashi was able to find her almost instantly. He grinned sadistically behind his mask. Sakura stopped as she heard some twigs snap behind her. She spun around and gasped in shock and terror. In front of her stood a bloodied and broken Sasuke. "Sakura," he groaned, "run." But those words Sasuke collapsed on the ground. Sakura then threw back her head and screamed out in terror. After that she promptly fainted. After she was out cold, the Sasuke in front of her vanished and Kakashi stood in his place. That was the top Kunoichi. He thought, this is really pathetic. With Naruto. The pinky went down hard, Naruto thought as he heard Sakura's scream of terror. But Sasuke. The dark boy heard Sakura scream and knew that she was out of the picture. Sasuke decided to face the problem head on and fight Kakashi. He knew with his skill he would be able to beat him. Poor delusional fool. Sasuke jumped out of the woods and faced Kakashi. The silver-haired man looked at the last Uchiha. "Shouldn't you be hiding?" Kakashi asked in a bored tone. Sasuke just growled at him. Kakashi looked at the last Uchiha and reached into his pocket. Sasuke tensed as he thought he was reaching for a weapon. Kakashi then took out a little orange book. "Why are you reading that?" Sasuke asked. "Because I want to know how it ends," Kakashi said as if it were a common fact. Sasuke growled and charged again, swinging his fist. Kakashi lazily dodged it. This, of course, only served to make the boy even angrier. Sasuke tried again and again to try and hit him, but Kakashi just kept on dodging. Meanwhile, Sakura felt something wet and rough repeatedly touching her face. She woke up to reveal Hitomi licking her face. Sakura got up, jumped back, and cried out in shock. "Enjoy your nap?" Naruto asked her as he walked up next to Hitomi. "Beat it, loser," Sakura spat. "Easy there, Pinky," Naruto said, crossing his arms. "I think there is something up with this test." "What are you talking about?" She pink-haired girl asked. "Think about it," Naruto said, trying to make the girl not so dumb. "How are 3 fresh out of the academy genin supposed to take on a full-fledged jonin?" "Sasuke can," Sakura said, getting a faraway look in her eyes. "He can do anything." The next thing Sakura knew, she was nursing a massive lump on her head due to Naruto bashing her over the head. "Outside of your fantasy world," Naruto said, glaring at her with his black and red eyes burning. "We would have to work together," Sakura realized. "Finally she gets it," Naruto said. "Now I got a plan, but we have to bide our time for a little bit." Meanwhile, Sasuke was not having any luck. No matter what he did, he couldn't get a beat on this guy. After a few more minutes of swinging a few punches, Sasuke got tired of this. Sasuke jumped back from Kakashi and went through hand signs. "Fire style. Fireball jutsu." The boy inhaled and shot out a massive fireball from his mouth, shocking Kakashi. "The genin can't do fire jutsu," Kakashi thought, "it takes way too much chakra." The flames enveloped Kakashi and Sasuke smirked at his victory. It fell, however, when the flames fell and revealed a burned log. Sasuke looked around to try and find Kakashi until he felt something grip his leg. He looked down to see an arm coming out of the dirt. Earth style. Headhunter jutsu. Sasuke was then pulled underground and buried up to his neck in the dirt. Kakashi rose out of the ground a few feet away. Still reading his book, he shook his head. If that was the rookie of the year, I'm disappointed, he thought. The silver-haired Jonin then heard a shrill whistle. Kakashi looked to see Naruto coming out of the woods with Hitomi at his side. "Ready to give up those bells?" Naruto asked. "Nope," Kakashi said. The next thing he knew, he was dodging Hitomi, who was going at his throat. While he was distracted, Naruto jumped in front of the man and swung a kunai. It didn't hit Kakashi, but it did hit his book. "No!" Kakashi yelled as his book was cut in half. He fell to his knees in despair and threw up his arms, crying in despair in a very overdramatic manner. Then he went from overdramatic to incredibly angry. "You!" he growled, pointing at Naruto, "you killed my precious." Naruto blinked at his sensei's sudden change in attitude. Naruto then felt excited as this guy was finally going to start taking things seriously. Naruto got into a stance and Kakashi ran at him. The silver-haired Jonin threw a right hook that Naruto promptly caught. The blonde then threw a punch of his own. Kakashi jumped to the side to avoid the punch. The punch did hit an unfortunate tree. Kakashi was stunned out of his anger when he heard a loud crack. He turned to the tree that Naruto had hit to see it crack and then fall over. Kakashi felt his jaw drop. From his spot in the ground, Sasuke seethed. He had never seen that kind of strength before. He was an Uchiha and elite. How come he didn't have that kind of power and that loser did? Sakura, from her hiding spot, looked on in shock. She was currently rethinking the idea of hitting Naruto if he could do that to someone. Kakashi came out of his shock just in time to see Naruto rushing at him. Kakashi jumped out of the way to avoid those deadly weapons that Naruto called his fists. After a few seconds, Hitomi jumped back in the fray and tried to chomp down on Kakashi's leg again. As Kakashi jumped to avoid Fox's jaws, Naruto jumped over her and sent out a force push, sending Kakashi flying back. Kakashi rose up and groaned in pain as he felt the pressure from the force push used on him. What the hell was that? Kakashi thought as he rose up from the ground. Or at least he would have if he hadn't been pinned by a large red fox. "Got you, Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said, crossing his arms. At that moment, his timer went off. "Out of time," Kakashi said as the large fox got off him, "and you didn't get the bells." Naruto pointed behind him and it revealed Sakura holding both the bells. "How did she manage to get those from me?" Kakashi asked. "Simple," Naruto said, "while you were still airborne from that technique I used, Sakura came out of her hiding spot and grabbed them. Though I must say, if all it takes to distract you that much is destroying a book, then this village's expectations of a jonin must have fallen greatly." Kakashi's sweat dropped. He had just been taken to school by a genin who just got out of the academy. While Sai was going on, Sasuke had been dug out of the ground and was now joining to the group. "Now Sakura," Naruto said, "what are you going to do with those bells?" "What do you think?" Sakura said, "I'm giving one to Sasuke and I'm giving the other one to Naruto. He did help me understand the reason behind the test." "Really?" Kakashi asked, what was the real meaning? "Teamwork," Sakura said. She still felt a little sore from where Naruto bashed her over the head. "Well then," Kakashi said, "I'm happy to say that this is one of the better teams to have passed my test. We begin mission tomorrow." The team nodded and then started to go home when Kakashi called out, "Oh Naruto." "Yeah?" Naruto asked, having a bad feeling. "Leaf style forbidden technique. 1000 years of death." "Yo. That was for my book." Kakashi yelled at Naruto as he was sent flying upward by a kunai poke to his butt. Sasuke and Sakura couldn't help but laugh at their teammates' predicament. As Kakashi started to leave, a large furry object wrapped around him, keeping him in place. He followed it to see it was Hitomi's tail. The silver-haired Jonin struggled to try and get out of the vice that was the fox's tail. He suddenly felt a lot of killing intent aimed at him. He turned to find and source and saw a very angry Naruto rushing at him. Less than a few seconds later, Naruto was upon high with one arm in its hammer fist form. "That hurt," was all Naruto growled as Hitomi released the man from her tail and Naruto unleashed a powerful uppercut that sent Kakashi flying. Naruto reverted his arm back to normal. He felt stares being aimed at him and saw Sakura and Sasuke both looking at him in shock. "What was that?" Sakura asked as she had just seen Naruto morph his arm and use it to send Kakashi flying. "I'll tell you some other time," Naruto said. "Come on Hitomi for helping me, there's a sirloin at home with your name on it." The fox barked happily and the two ran off, leaving a shocked Sakura and Sasuke. Meanwhile. "Ah," Anko said, "this is just what I needed." She, along with her friends Kurenai, Yugao and Hana, were relaxing at the hot springs after a long day. It turns out so were a lot of other women, since it was time for a little relaxation for once in the day. It was calm, peaceful and nothing could ruin it. At that moment a whistling sound filled the air. Everyone looked up to see a figure flying through the air. The UFO then crashed into the middle of the hot spring. The thing rose up to reveal a battered and very disoriented Kakashi. The man just recovered from his unexpected flight when he felt a lot of killing intent. He looked around to see he was surrounded by very angry towel-clad women. Kakashi tried to say, I can explain. "At him," a random woman yelled. The air then filled with girly screams as Kakashi was beaten within his life. Later. The Jonin who were assigned to teach teams were in the Hokage's office. All of them except Kakashi. The Hokage was about to start the meeting when Kakashi, who was bandaged and using a crutch to walk, came into the room. "What happened to you?" Asuma asked. "Don't ask," Kakashi thought. "Alright then," Sarutobi said, "then let's start the meeting." Which teams passed? Team 1 failed. Team 2 failed. Team 3 failed. Team 4 failed. Team 5 failed. They freaking stunk. Team 6 failed. Team 7 passed. Everyone looked at Kakashi in shock as they heard he passed his team. Team 8 passed. Team 10 passed. "Good," Sarutobi said, "looks like we have the Konoha 12 again." "Kakashi," Kurenai asked, "how did your team pass? You haven't passed a team in a long time." "I had some interesting experiences with this team," Kakashi said. "I bet it was the Uchiha," said one Jonin, "that demon brat probably got in the way." The man got a Chidori through the crotch for that comment. "Actually," Kakashi said, "the test started off like normal. The teammates hid and I had to find them. I took Sakura out with a simple genjutsu. How she passed I do not know. Sasuke then tried to fight me head-on. He managed to touch a bell, but didn't get one. He surprised me when he used a fire jutsu, but I trapped him with my headhunter jutsu. After that Naruto showed up." "Let me guess," said one Jonin, "the boy failed miserably." "Actually," Kakashi said, "he managed to. Hokage-sama here probably saw the whole thing. Why don't you just show them what happened?" The Hokage took out his crystal ball and it grew to the size of a large screen TV. The image of the fight with Kakashi and Naruto played. Everyone was surprised at the precision and strength the so-called dead last showed. The Jonin sweat dropped when they saw Kakashi use that jutsu on Naruto for destroying his book. That changed to shock when they saw Naruto uppercut Kakashi into the air. "That," Kakashi said looking at Kurenai, "is what led to our little meeting earlier." Kurenai blushed and Anko looked at him with a smirk. She was just happy she had a reason to beat on him. "Well then," the Hokage said, "meeting adjourned." Everyone left except for Kakashi. "Hokage-sama," Kakashi said, "may I ask what exactly those abilities Naruto has are? There was nothing like that in his file." "I never put them in his file," the old fire shadow said, "because I didn't want anyone to know about them." The Hokage then went on to explain what the abilities were. Kakashi felt his heart stop. If Naruto hadn't been holding back he would be a stain on the ground. After the explanations Kakashi left the office and went home to rest up. If Naruto was really as strong as the old man said, then he was going to be in for a rough time. Chapter 4. New mission and new powers. Is everyone in place? Over. Kakashi asked as took his place in a tree. Pink Harpy in position. Naruto, I hate you. Over, Sakura growled into her headset. King of Brood in position. I hate you as well Naruto, Sasuke said. You could actually hear the glare in his voice. Oh, I'm frightened, Naruto said sarcastically, Plague is in position. Target confirmed, Sakura spoke through her headset. Ready? Kakashi asked, move to capture now. The three genin jumped out at the target. Meow. Naruto picked up a black cat with a pink ribbon on its right ear. Yep, Naruto said, it's Tora alright. The cat writhed and tried to get out of the blonde's grip, but it stopped when Hitomi growled at it. The cat then whimpered slightly. Good, Kakashi said, target captured. Mission complete. Why do we keep doing this? I hate cats. Naruto yelled, making all of his teammates and his sensei wince at the volume of his anger. A few minutes later. Oh, Tora. The fire daimyo's wife cried out as she saw her cat. The cat immediately panicked and ran inside Naruto's shirt. On Naruto's back you could see a large lump trembling in fear of the large woman. Tora? The woman asked, clearly confused. She cat had never done that before. Ma'am, Naruto said, I think you scared your cat a bit. But I couldn't have, the woman said confused, Tora's never reacted to me like that. Maybe, Naruto said, she never reacted like that to you because she never knew it was going to happen. What do you do exactly when you hold her? I smother her with my affections like the daughter I never had, the daimyo's wife explained. The look of realization ran over Naruto's face for a few seconds. That explains it, Naruto said, cats aren't people my lady. Cats prefer to be pampered not smothered. If you hold her and not hug her to death, then she won't run away as much or not at all. The entire time Naruto spoke it was in a clear and calm tone. Sakura and Sasuke were surprised by the fact that Naruto was speaking in a different manner than his loud self. They were also surprised that he actually had the guts to correct the fire daimyo's wife. This woman could and will have you executed if you so much as look at her wrong. The fire daimyo's wife said, I must say this is the first time that someone has actually had the gall to correct me on something. You must be either very brave or very foolish. I think I'm a little of both, Naruto said smiling. Tora climbed out of Naruto's shirt popping up out on top of Naruto's head. The fire daimyo's wife slowly approached. The cat tried to dive down back to safety, but Naruto caught her and held her out. The cat closed its eyes in fear of the oncoming pain. To Tora's surprise she was picked up gently and then cradled and scratched behind the ears. Loving the sensation, Tora purred and snuggled into the woman's arms. Thank you, young man, the fire daimyo's wife said smiling, you just solved a continuing problem for me and got rid of an annoying mission from what I hear. From now on my husband and I will send you real missions. Naruto nodded at her and bowed politely. The woman walked away to pay for the mission. As she did, the cat looked over her shoulder and nodded thankfully at Naruto. That was all it took. Kakashi asked out loud when the woman was out of hearing distance. That was all it took to get rid of the most annoying D-ranked mission in the history of this village. Apparently, Naruto said, I wonder why no one ever thought to try and explain that to her. Probably because they thought either she would execute them or that they enjoyed seeing the cat get squeezed to death, Sakura said, leaning back against the wall. Now then, Sarutobi said, let's see what other missions there are. Let's see, there are a few more D-ranked missions available. Old man, Naruto said, making the old man look up from his papers, I feel like I should say that those aren't missions, those are chores. Naruto, these missions may be ridiculous, but they hold a strong part in the economy of the village, the old fire shadow said. Naruto reached out and took some of the papers from the desk and read a few: mowing a lawn, pulling weeds, getting a package from across the street, taking out garbage, cleaning gutters, and finding a lost pair of underwear. The old man was silent before saying, you're right, these are chores. How and why do we keep getting these anyway? Naruto said, they are a complete waste of a ninja's time and strength. A civilian member can do this junk. The Hokage hummed in thought, Naruto, come with me. The rest of you stay here. The two got up and left. The rest of Team 7 stayed in place looking at each other in confusion, trying to figure out what was going on. Hitomi just sat in the corner and fell asleep. With Naruto and the old man. Where are we going, Oji-san? Naruto asked. To the documents department, Sarutobi replied, they're in charge of what documents go through to me. In all honesty, I never really come down here much. These people aren't the highest in the departments. But, Naruto said, if one of them wanted to they could slip a paper bomb in a stack of your paperwork, couldn't they? The old man stopped in mid-stride as he heard that. That was something else he had never considered. You seem to know who and how someone could commit treason, Naruto, the old fire shadow said as he continued to walk. My ancestors were betrayed by quite a few people, Naruto said, I know who to suspect as a traitor and how they could do it. As they finished the conversation, the two arrived at the department. The old man opened the door and was instantly upset with what he saw. Apparently the document department wasn't what it was the last time he came down here. The room was filled with fancy furniture, a large flat-screen TV, a popcorn machine and a minibar. The documents were on a table in the back. The workers were on the side chugging down soda and laughing up a storm. What's going on here? The old man asked, making everyone gasp. A few of the workers did a spit take with their soda and spat it all over the place. They all turned and looked at the old man nervously. One of them walked up to him and gulped nervously. Okage-sama, he said, what are you doing here? I came to check up on something, the old man said, would you mind telling me why some of the missions we get are ridiculous and a complete waste of my ninja's time? Oh, and while we're at it, how did you get all this stuff? I don't think that one paycheck from this place could be enough to pay for all this. I can't tell you that, sir, the man said smiling. The other workers also got a little braver when they heard the man's tone. And why is that? The old man said with an obviously upset voice. Naruto crossed his arms as well. We, the worker said, motioning to his co-eds, are under the protection of the council. You can't hurt us. The old man's eyes narrowed. The next thing everyone knew, the man he was talking to was knocked across the room, through the wall, and slammed headfirst into the side of a dumpster. You forget your place, the old man growled. Naruto, if you could be so kind, dispose of this trash. Gladly, the blonde replied, taking out his light swords. Naruto ran forward and sliced through the workers like they were nothing. After a few minutes there was only one left. Naruto put up his swords and pinned the man against the desk. As he did, the desk cracked and a few papers fell out. The old man saw this and walked over to the fallen papers. As he read them, his eyes flashed in anger. As he read the others, the anger became more apparent. What is it, old man? Naruto asked. These, the old man said through clenched teeth, are motions for you to be adopted by the clan heads. If I had gotten one of these you would have been adopted. Why are these here and not on my desk years ago? Because, the man who Naruto was holding at the desk said, if the demon was adopted then he would corrupt the clan and turn them against us. We only did it for the protection of the village, sir. Naruto growled and brought a hand up. He then slammed it into the man's ribcage, breaking through into his lungs. Naruto hand consumed the man. Naruto then hunched over and clutched the sides of his head in pain as memories surged through his brain. He found on in particular. Memory play. What is it you need us to do? The man asked the council advisors and a couple of councilmen. We need you to keep these adoption motions away from the Hokage, Kaharu explained. If the demon is adopted by one of the clans he will corrupt them and turn them against us. Understood. We do, the man said, but what's in it for us? One of the council members reached behind his back and took out a large sack of money. Everyone's eyes turned to Ryo Signs. We will do as you ask, the man said taking the money. Memory end. Naruto rose up and told the Hokage what he saw. The old man growled. I should have known they would try a trick like this, Sarutobi growled. Can you describe the council members that were with them? Naruto told him what the council members looked like. The two of them walked out of the office and the old man stopped to see one of the women who didn't hate Naruto. From what he read in an evaluation it was time for an overdue promotion. Excuse me Ayika. The old man said making the woman jump. Why yes sir? Ayika asked. You've been promoted, the old man said making the woman's eyes go wide, you're in charge of documents now. I want you to find all motions to execute and or banish Naruto and then burn them. What happened to the people working in there now? The woman asked curiously. Apparently someone thought it would be a good idea to go behind my back, the old man answered. Oh and I would wait a little bit before going in there. I need to have a cleanup crew go through there. The woman paled and nodded in understanding. The two of them went back to the old man's office. Sorry about that, the old man said, me and Naruto had some personal business to take care of. Now I believe that you and your team have qualified for a C-rank mission. I believe I have one here. The old man rummaged through his papers and found a C-rank mission. He then took all the D-rank missions and promptly threw them away. Now then, the old man said pressing a button on his intercom, Mahashi send the client. Yes sir, said a voice that was completely different from the one that belonged to the woman that Naruto had thrown through the door a few weeks prior. After a few seconds an old man with a jug came in and scoffed at the group in front of him. Hitomi sat up when she smelled the sake and was looking at her master. I ask for protection and what do I get? The man asked in a gruff voice, a scarecrow that looks too lazy to lift a finger, a kid who looks like someone with a cart ran over his dog, a girl who looks so frail a stick could kill her if it hit her in the right place, and to be quite honest the last one doesn't seem too bad. Kakashi was holding back Sakura and Sasuke from killing the client and Naruto just chuckled at the fact that this guy just insulted the two. Naruto noticed the jug in the man's hand. The next thing the client knew the bottle in his hand was gone. The man then saw Naruto holding it. The blonde then said in a serious tone, sir, if you want us to protect you, I suggest you stay sober. If you're drunk you are impaired meaning that you would become a hindrance on the mission that you paid for. Naruto then chugged down what was left in the bottle. He then threw the bottle over his shoulder into a trash can and let out a belch. Naruto's powers in the force and the biomass in his body helped keep him from getting drunk. Although if he drank vast amounts of the stuff then he would become drunk. I think I'm gonna like this kid, the client said, anyway my name is Tazuna. I need you and your team to escort me back to my home in Wave where I'm constructing a bridge. Alright, Kakashi said, mission accepted. We'll meet you in about 3 hours at the main gate. Everyone understand? The team nodded. With that they left. Well they did though Naruto had his eye on Kakashi. Throughout the past few missions and in their first encounter he felt something was off about Kakashi. He was wondering what it was. He then decided that now would be a good time to go and see if he could figure it out. Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked, can I talk with you for a little bit? Sure, Kakashi said, what's up? I trust that the old man told you about what happened with me and how I got my bloodlines right. Yeah, Kakashi said putting away his book, why do you ask? Kakashi, Naruto said, I've sensed something off about you for a while now. I believe that like me you may have a super-powered ancestor like I do. Really? Kakashi asked, so you think that I have abilities similar to yours? No, Naruto said making Kakashi frown behind his mask, what I sense is different from my powers. I was wondering if I could unlock them for you. I have a feeling that we will need them when the time comes. Alright, Kakashi said, let's do it, but let's take it to the training grounds, the last thing I want to do is destroy a public place. A few minutes later at training ground 7. You ready sensei? Naruto asked. Kakashi just nodded. Naruto then cracked his knuckles and walked up to Kakashi. Naruto shifted the biomass in his hands and small tentacles entered Kakashi's head and then his brain. Naruto then used the force to enter his mind and scan Kakashi's ancestry. What he found shocked him. He grinned mentally. Then he shifted his biomass let go of Kakashi. Kakashi then yelled out in pain. He felt like his body was on fire. Inside of him new chakra coils were being formed. Naruto had left some biomass in him and they were rapidly forming secondary chakra coils for Kakashi. Naruto had set them to self-terminate to where they would be useless. Naruto wouldn't have done it so quickly normally, but he was in a hurry at the moment. After a few minutes Kakashi rose up and his one visible eye became glazed over as visions played before his eyes. He saw a man standing in front of a bunch of men with guns. The man raised his hand and fired lightning bolts from his hand. He then focused electricity in his hand and threw a small ball that connected with one enemy who tried to get away, but it was stuck and then promptly exploded. One of the men snuck up behind him and fired a missile. The man spun around and fired a wave of energy that deflected the missile and sent it flying back at its owner. Then a large vehicle rolled up. A second one came up from behind him. Both vehicles had large machines on the back. They both unleashed a rapid barrage on the man. The man formed a shield in front of him blocking one haze from the front but was hit from behind. After a second the firing stopped. The shield dropped and the man took aim. He narrowed his eyes and nailed the man at the machine in the head with a blast. The second one started firing again. The man jumped out of the way and ran in front of the vehicle. The man then held up his hand slightly higher and a large ball of electricity shot off toward the front of the vehicle. He shot two more and a couple of lightning bolts. Finally, after the onslaught was over, the truck exploded. When the vehicle exploded, the man behind the gunner got off and ran at the man. The man was quick to respond. With his hands coated in electricity, he began to beat down on the man until he was out cold. The man then stood over him and using his electricity bound the man to the ground. The man looked and saw a woman on the ground in pain. He walked over and using his powers healed her. After that the vision ended. Kakashi came back to earth and groaned a little as he felt his head spin. "What was that?" Kakashi asked. "I had the same thing," Naruto said, "it showed me the abilities of my ancestors. From what I can tell, you have his abilities. I saw what he could do. Why don't you try?" Kakashi got up a little shakily. He was still a little disoriented and was still a tad bit sore from the chakra coils growing. He faced a training post. He held out his hand and focused on what seemed to be the basic power of his ancestor. Suddenly lightning shot out of Kakashi's hand and destroyed the training post. Kakashi looked at his hand in wonder and said, "Whoa." "From what I can tell," Naruto said, "your ancestor had the ability to manipulate electricity. He needed to feed constantly off electric object. Since there aren't many like that, I had my biomass form secondary chakra coils in your body that will hold and replenish that power, but it can run out like regular chakra if you use too much." "Got it," Kakashi said, "but what do we do now?" "I believe it's time we practice with your new powers," Naruto said, "since we have 4.5 hours till the meeting." Kakashi was about to correct the boy when he remembered that he was usually 2 hours late for everything. He grinned under his mask. Looks like him being late was a good thing for once. Naruto got into a stance and Kakashi did the same. Electricity formed in Kakashi's hands and biomass started to form on Naruto's arms. The two then charged at each other. Hitomi just laid down and took a nap despite the noise of combat that filled the air. 4 hours later. Naruto stood panting. His arms were currently in their hammer fist form. He had a few burn marks that were healing and his jacket was ripped up as well as his shirt. Kakashi was exhausted as hell. He had a few claw marks on him and his headband was up. He didn't have his Sharingan, I thought. When Naruto sent his biomass into Kakashi, he had the biomass isolate and destroy the Sharingan. Kakashi was in too much pain to notice. In a sense, Kakashi was relieved that it was gone. It was dangerous for someone to have the Sharingan when they weren't in a chair. Hitomi had woken up and sat up in her shady spot. "Ithink pant, that's ENOUGH pant for today," Naruto panted. "Yeah," Kakashi said, also tired, "I think you're right." "Now," Kakashi said, "what are we going to do about our clothes? We can't go to our mission dressed like this." Naruto shifted his arms back to normal and put a hand to his chin and thought. Then he remembered something. "Come on," Naruto said, "I think I know someone who can help." Later. Naruto and Kakashi walked into the shop where Naruto had gotten his light swords. Hitomi sat outside. As he walked in, he was greeted to a surprising sight. "Ten," Naruto asked. "Hi Naruto," she said smiling, "what are you doing here?" "I'm here to get some new threads," Naruto explained. "What are you doing here?" "This is my family's store," Ten explained. "Naruto," Kakashi said, "I didn't know that you had a girlfriend." I'm not my girlfriend." The two cried out at the same time. The two then looked at each other and blushed. Not helping the argument, Kakashi chuckled, "Now do you have any clothes that can replace these?" Ten, who stopped blushing, nodded and headed into the back. She came out a few seconds later and handed a thing of them to Naruto. "My dad told me to give this to you," Ten said. "Why he did I don't know, but he said it was something that would make you look good. As for you, you're going to have to look around a bit." Kakashi nodded and went with her to go back to look for some new clothes. As Naruto went to go change, Kakashi whispered, "You might want to ask her out while you can. Girls like that are hard to find." Naruto blushed again and elbowed Kakashi in the side before stepping into the dressing room. 10 minutes later. Sasuke, Sakura and Tazuna were waiting for their sensei and their fellow teammate. "Oh, where are they?" Sakura yelled, being impatient. "Gee, Sakura, calm down," came Naruto's voice. Sakura turned around and was about to yell when she noticed the attire he and their sensei were wearing. Naruto was wearing what looked like a black long-sleeve shirt with metallic gauntlets on his forearms. The shoulders were also metal, and some of the chest was too. His pants were also black and had a belt with the light swords on the sides instead of behind him. On his feet he wore black boots. It was hard to tell what else was on his body due to a red cloak with a hood that covered Naruto's body. Kakashi wore a black shirt with a grey jacket that had the image of white lightning bolts going around on it. He wore white fingerless gloves and had a belt that had the Konoha symbol on it. He wore a pair of jeans that were a little loose and black sandals. Naruto was happy with the outfit Kakashi had picked out. It seemed to fight his new bloodline nicely. Kakashi had decided to call his new bloodline the White Storm bloodline. It wasn't the most creative, but it did describe his powers pretty nicely. "What happened to you two?" Sakura asked. "We decided to grab some new threads," Naruto explained. "You like? It does make you look different," Sakura answered. Sasuke didn't pay any mind because he just thought that the idiot was just trying to look cool. "Now then," Kakashi said, "let's get started." The team then walked out of the gates and into the forest that surrounded the village. Naruto was a little excited. Then again the other genin on his team were too. This was the first time that they had left the village. As they walked a little down the road, Naruto noticed a puddle in the middle of the road. "Hey Kakashi," Naruto whispered so only Kakashi could hear, "why is there a puddle in the middle of the road? It hasn't rained in days." "Ninjutsu," Kakashi whispered back, "and a poor one at that. Be ready." Naruto continued like there was nothing going on. As soon as the group passed a puddle, two men jumped out from the water. They both seemed to be twins since they both wore the same outfit and a mask. The two had gauntlets on one arm and had a chain that linked them. The two wrapped their chain around Kakashi. Before they could pull, however, Kakashi grabbed the chain and sent a huge bolt of electricity through the two of them. They both screamed out in pain. Both brothers fell to their knees. Kakashi took the chain off him and threw it to the ground. He then turned to Tazuna and said, "I believe you owe us an explanation. Why are these two after you?" "They're probably just a couple of thieves," Tazuna lamely tried to cover. "No," Kakashi said, "they are the demon brothers, two missing nin from Kiri. Why are they after you?" Tazuna hung his head in defeat and said, "I lied, okay. My home in Wave is being plundered by a man named Gato. He's bleeding it dry and the bridge I'm building will save it. Unfortunately Gato is not too fond of the idea. He hired these two to try and kill me. Please don't abandon me. If you do, then my village, my home, will surely be destroyed." Kakashi was quiet. He then turned to his students and said, "What do you three think?" "I think we should continue," Naruto said. "I don't like tyrants. This guy needs to be brought down hard." "I agree," Sakura said. "I want to bring him down and fast." "Yeah," Sasuke said, "besides this will be a chance to test my strength." "Alright," Kakashi said, "as of now this is an A-ranked mission. Naruto, see if you can get some info from you little friends here." Naruto nodded. He walked over and consumed the two, much to the shock and slight disgust of Sasuke and Sakura. Naruto clutched his head as memories flashed through his head. After a few seconds he got up and looked at his team. "Well?" Kakashi asked. "There are two others in this group," Naruto said, "one big guy with a huge sword and I couldn't identify the other one." Kakashi nodded. The group continued. After a little bit Sakura couldn't hold her curiosity anymore. She just had to ask. "What was that earlier?" Sakura asked, referring to how Naruto consumed the demon brothers and how did Kakashi-sensei do that thing with his hands. "I was wondering when you would ask," Kakashi said. "Those were our bloodlines. Naruto's is the prototype bloodline. He's able to consume his enemies among other things. He also has a second one that you will see at a later time. I call mine the White Storm. It basically gives me unsurpassable control over electricity. I haven't gotten a handle on all the abilities yet, but I do know that I have some very impressive moves in my arsenal that can't be copied. The same with Naruto." As Sasuke heard that he felt himself seethe. Naruto had two bloodline and Kakashi had one that seemed to surpass his family's Sharingan. He was wondering if he could find a way to get them to spill on how they managed to get those powers. Suddenly Hitomi turned to the side and ran off into the bushes. Naruto ran in after her. As he did, he smiled at the sight he saw. He saw Hitomi pinning and licking to death a slightly smaller than her Arctic fox. "Oh look," Naruto said, "puppy love." Sakura cooed at the adorable sight. The white fox suddenly got up from underneath Hitomi and ran off. Hitomi whined a little. Naruto grinned at the thought of Hitomi having a crush on White Fox. Wait, White Fox? It was the middle of summer. That mean that the fox that Hitomi and everyone saw was used as a substitution. Naruto then felt something nearby and yelled, "Everybody duck." The large sword came out of nowhere and sailed right toward the ninja and the client. To everyone's shock, Kakashi didn't move a muscle. He held out his hands and sent out a shockwave that deflected the sword and sent it flying into the ground. Sakura, Sasuke and Izuna stared and thought at the same time, what in the hell was that? That was unexpected, said a voice. The figure appeared next to the sword. He was tall and muscular. He had messy black hair and wore a mask that covered his mouth. His wasn't wearing a shirt and wore pants that looked like they were made from cowhide. His eyes were cold and piercing. "I take it you're the other one who would take over the mission after the demon brothers," Naruto said, crossing his arms. "I am," the man said, picking up a sword which turned out to be taller than him. "My name is Zabuza Mamachi, or the demon of the bloody mist." "Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto said, staring at the man. "I don't have a nickname." Zabuza hummed and thought, "Uzumaki, where have I heard that name? Oh, now I remember. Buddy, I haven't even been out of my village before," Naruto said. "How can you know who I am?" "Now you really," Zabuza said, "I mean the Uzumaki name. From what I can remember, the Uzumaki were incredible swordsmen. They established a village in Water County. The Whirlpool Village. Allegedly one of their members supposedly trained Hanzo the Salamander." Naruto was shocked at the moment. He knew his father's family was famous in Konoha, but he never would have guessed that the other side of his family was famous in another country. "Now," Zabuza spoke, shaking Naruto from his thoughts, "hand over the bridge builder and you can get out of here alive." "Sorry dude," Naruto said, taking a serious face and clenching his fists, "if you want to get the old drunk here you're going to have to go through me first." "Naruto," Kakashi said, "let me handle him." "No," Naruto said, "you don't have enough practice with your new abilities yet. I'll handle this guy. Besides, I want to test my skills against a real opponent. Sasuke just doesn't cut it." "Hey." The Uchiha called out angrily as he had just been insulted. "Oh, shut up," Naruto yelled back. "Ah ha ha." Zabuza laughed, "I'm starting to like this kid. Alright boyo, if it's a fight you want then it's a fight you get." Kakashi wasn't exactly all for Naruto fighting Zabuza, but he stayed quiet. He knew from his ancestors' memories that water could very well kill him if he stayed in too deep too long, or if he was completely submerged in it, and there was a good chance that could happen with Zabuza being from the Mist Village. Besides, he wanted to see the looks on his students' faces when they saw just how powerful Naruto really was. Zabuza charged forward, swinging his sword. Naruto jumped up to avoid the horizontal slash. He landed behind Zabuza and spun around, unleashing a strong punch that would have broken him in half if he hadn't have jumped to the left. "This kid's fast." Zabuza realized as Naruto appeared in front of him again and swung another punch that obliterated a tree, strong too. And here I thought the Konoha was starting to go soft. Zabuza jumped away, landing softly. He said, "Looks like Konoha is the military power people say it is. I was hoping to find someone who could push me to my limits." "If this is your limit," Naruto said, "then I am very disappointed." "Alright kid," Zabuza said, "if it's my all you want it's my all you got." Hidden mist jutsu. The battlefield was then covered in thick mist that made it very hard for anyone to see. Spine, heart, liver, lungs, larynx, jugular, these are only a few ways to die. Question is which one to aim for first. Came Zabuza's haunting voice in the mist. Sakura, Sasuke and Izuna were currently sweating at the killing intent that was emanating from all around them and the voice that seemed to come from all over. Naruto grinned. Accessing his bloodline, he accessed his thermal vision power. He looked around and saw a figure that was similar to Zabuza's. He quickly shifted his arm to its blade form and blocked the large sword that was aimed to cut off his head. He can see through the mist. Zabuza mentally yelled in shock and a little bit of horror. While Zabuza was still shocked, he shifted his other arm to his claw form and drove it up through Zabuza's stomach. Time froze and then the swordsman burst into water. The water clone, Naruto thought. With his thermal vision still activated, he looked through the mist and found at least 4 Zabuzas. Naruto shifted his sword arm to its claw form and charged at the 4 swordsmen. The first one came at him swinging his sword in a downward arc. Naruto dodged to the side and swung his claws, decapitating the water clone. The second one came up and Naruto swung at him. The clone jumped in the air and came down on Naruto. The blonde smirked and slammed his claw on the ground and called out, "Biomass style." Ground spike. As the name said, a huge spike of biomass shot out of the ground. The clone, who was unready for this, was impaled on the spike before he burst into water. The spike then receded back underground as the biomass returned to Naruto's body. The third and final water clone charged at Naruto, seeing as he was still on the ground. The third and final water clone charged at Naruto, seeing his chance to take the blonde down since he was still on the ground. The clone went through hand signs and Naruto spun around. He shot out a few tendrils from his hands and they hit the clone dead center. Tendrils then covered the clone and then consumed him. Naruto didn't get much from the clone, but he did learn the jutsu it was about to use. Naruto faced the real Zabuza who was now coming at him and went through the hand signs. When he finished he called out, "Water style. Water dragon jutsu." Zabuza's eyes went wide as the water around Naruto formed a large dragon. It was similar to his own technique, but this one seemed much strong. The dragon roared and flew at Zabuza who was too shocked to move. As he was washed away by the current he thought, how in nine hells is this kid a genin? Zabuza's thoughts were interrupted when he made incredibly painful contact with the trunk of a tree. He cried out as he felt something crack. He groaned in pain, but despite it he actually managed to get up. "Wow," Naruto said looking at the swordsman, "I didn't think you'd get up from that." "How?" Zabuza asked, "How are you a genin? With the strength you should be a jonin at least." "I want to earn my rank," Naruto said, "plus let's face it before I'm a jonin I want to make a name for myself." "Well then," Zabuza said picking up his sword which had washed up next to him, "let's see what else you got." Naruto reached under his cloak and was about to take out his light swords when a few throwing needles flew out of nowhere and pierced Zabuza's neck. The swordman promptly fell to the ground unconscious. Naruto raised an eyebrow before a figure appeared in a tree. It was a hunter nin wearing a blue battle kimono. "Thank you for weakening him for me," said a female voice behind the mask. "No problem," Naruto said looking at the hunter nin with an impassive look that masked suspicion. The force was going off on this one. "Now if you don't mind," the hunter nin said picking up Zabuza's prone body, "I'm going to do my job." "Then start right now," Naruto said, "hunter nin are supposed to destroy missing nin on sight." He could sense the uneasiness form the hunter nin. "We will meet again," the hunter nin said as she vanished in a swirl of water. The mist lifted and Naruto turned to see everyone other than Kakashi doing the impression of open-mouthed fish. "What?" Naruto asked. "How Sakura started. Did you do all that?" Sasuke finished. "That was my bloodline," Naruto said, "I thought Kakashi told you about that earlier with the demon brother or were you just not listening at the time?" "How did you get that power?" Sasuke asked. "Those powers," Naruto growled, "are mine and mine alone. If you try to take them, I'll gut you like a trout." The anger in Naruto's red eyes caused Sasuke to back off. Sakura would have defended her crush but decided against it since she knew Naruto could kill her if he wanted to. "Alright then everybody," Kakashi said, "let's get going." The group then walked off on their way. As they left Sasuke glared at the back of Naruto's head. The young Uchiha was scheming to get the blonde hand over the secrets he had shown and the ones he had yet to. Oh poor and deluded Sasuke. Meanwhile in an old base underneath the ground. The large chamber filled with large glass tubes and the large computer sat. Large amounts of dust had gathered on the thing over the years. Suddenly there was a loud humming and the lights came on. The computer flashed and the system suddenly sprang to life. "System online." Came a dark and mechanical voice, "Solar panels positioned. System recharge initiated. Operating 50%. Time until recharge complete. 48 hours. Initiating scan." The voice went quiet, then a deafening warning siren went off. An image of the elemental countries appeared. The picture zoomed in on Fire Country and then zoomed in closer. It showed 7 dots. 2 going off in one direction. 5 more going off in another. Red alert. Red alert. Blacklight virus detected. Searching protocols protocol found. Once power restored begin bio and mech. Soldier production. After that the lights went dead and the screen was countdown to full power. 47 hours, 59 minutes, 19 seconds. Chapter 5. Training, Ravens and a Bloodbath. The Nari. Tsunami. "I'm home and I brought some people with me." Tazuna yelled as they entered his home. "Father," said a smooth female voice. The lovely woman with long black shoulder-length hair walked out. Soon joined by her was a young boy wearing a fisherman's hat. Naruto, Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura all waved at the two. "Tsunami, these are the ninja I hired to watch me while I came back here," Tazuna said as he saw his daughter. "They know I lied about the mission, but they decided to help us get rid of Gato." "No one can get rid of Gato," Inari said getting frowns from a lot of people, "you're all going to die anyway. You shouldn't even bother." Before anyone could say anything the boy went upstairs. The group was quiet as everyone thought, what's wrong with him? "Tsunami," Tazuna said after a short silence, "I want to introduce the super ninja who saved me from an assassin. The one with silver hair is Kakashi, and that is Naruto. Those two aren't worth mentioning since they didn't really do anything but stand around and look scared." Sakura and Sasuke both glared at the old man. Those looks were promptly ignored. "I'm Sasuke Uchiha," Sasuke said putting a little emphasis on his name. "Sakura Haruno," Sakura said. "Glad to meet you," Tsunami said smiling at the group, "dinner will be ready shortly." "Kakashi," Naruto said, "I need to have a word with you in private." Kakashi nodded and the two went off in solace to talk. "What is it, Naruto?" the lightning-powered ninja asked. I don't think Zabuza is dead, Naruto said, making Kakashi's eye widen. What makes you say that? Kakashi asked. Well, Naruto explained, the hunter nin use throwing needles. Those are mostly used to stun or puncture deep. They can only kill if they pierce around a vital organ. If they don't, they just stick there and cause a little bit of pain. Plus a hunter nin is supposed to start destruction of the body as soon as they kill their target. Why did she leave before doing it? Good point, the electric ninja said, I'll tell the others. How well do you think they'll take it? The blonde asked. One declaration later. What do you mean he's still alive? Everyone covered their ears as Sakura's scream of disbelief and fear tore through the house. A few pieces of china and glass cracked from the noise, and in the background you could hear a baby crying and a few dogs barking. That hunter nin was in league with him, Naruto explained as his hearing returned. If it was a real one, she would have started its destruction as soon as the eyebrowless freak was incapacitated. So what are we going to do? Sakura asked in a slightly calmer voice. Well, Naruto said, we train. I think we're going to need it in case we encounter him and that hunter nin. Though I don't think we should kill them. With the skills they have, they could make some good additions to our forces back in Konoha. Right then, Kakashi said, tonight we sleep. Tomorrow we train. The three genin all nodded. Sasuke was looking at Naruto. He was wondering if he could get some of the power that Naruto had. After dinner everyone went to bed. As he did, Sasuke walked up to him and looked at the boy. What do you want? Naruto asked. I want to know how you got those powers, the duck-haired boy said. Those are my abilities alone, Naruto said, I won't teach you them, nor will I tell you how to get them, and neither will Kakashi. Sasuke growled slightly and went to his room. Naruto went to his room. Hitomi walked over and laid down in the corner asleep. As he sat down, heard something. Child. Come and no power. What the heck is that? Naruto thought, hey fox, did you hear that just now? Yeah, the fox answered, I think something is calling out to you. I don't know what, but I think it may prove useful in the future. Check it out tomorrow. By the way, what are you doing? When Iruka was lecturing on seals, I managed to pay attention, Naruto said. I've been combining different seals from some notes I took. I've been wondering if some of these techniques will work. You're making up your own jutsu? Kyuubi asked. I think I can, Naruto thought. I think this one would work well with Kakashi. I'll ask him about it tomorrow. He could feel the fox grinning. The two then went to sleep. All the while Naruto was wondering if it would be a good idea to seek out that voice. The next morning the group of Konoha ninja and fox headed out to a clearing to train. To start, Kakashi said, you will be training with a special exercise. You will learn how to climb trees. But sensei, Sakura said, we already know how to climb trees. Yes, Kakashi said, but you will climb them using only your feet. What? Sakura asked dumbly. Kakashi demonstrated by walking up a nearby tree using only his feet. He focused chakra into his feet and walked straight up the surface. He looked down at the genin and said, neat huh? Sensei, how do you do that? Sakura asked. First, Kakashi said, focus chakra into your feet. Then walk up the surface. Add too little chakra and you won't stick. If you add too much the surface breaks. The more chakra you have the harder it is to do since you don't have to focus that much. The genin nodded and Sakura and Sasuke ran at the trees while Naruto just stood there. Naruto, Kakashi said, aren't you going to do anything? I already know this exercise, the blonde answered. Oh really? Sasuke said, standing next to his tree which now had a dent in the bark the size of his shoe, prove it. Naruto walked over to the river. He then stepped out and started walking on the water. Well, Kakashi said as he wasn't really surprised, it looks like you can train on your own, Naruto. Actually sensei, Naruto said, I want to know if you would mind trying something for me. What? Kakashi asked. Naruto said, it's kind of private. Kakashi shrugged. The two walked off when Naruto called out, hey Hitomi. Give these guys some encouragement if they start to slack off, will you? Hitomi rose from her spot next to a tree. Biomass rippled her body as she started to mutate. Sakura, Sasuke and Kakashi watched with a mix of shock and horror as the fox started to grow until it was the size of a horse. Then it turned into a walking nightmare. Its fur shed off and its skin turned reddish black. Large spikes of biomass sprouted from its back. Her tail turned mostly to bone and gained a few spikes on the end forming a spiked club. Its head turned into a massive fox skull. Its teeth grew sharper and its eyes drew back into the skull and started to glow. Then a third eye grew on its head and shone bright red. Her legs were covered in segments of biomass armor as was her back. Large black talons grew from her feet and curved flat spikes sprouted on the backs of her legs. The newly made monster snarled at the two and roared. The two screamed in horror and ran up the tree as fast as they could. Naruto, Kakashi said, remind me not to annoy you. You're going to do it anyway, Naruto said walking away. A little later the two reached another clearing. "So what is it you want me for, Naruto?" Kakashi asked. "Well," Naruto explained, "I know about hand signs and what they mean, so I made a jutsu when I was little. It was just for fun, so I didn't really put much thought into it. Since it's a lightning jutsu, I was wondering if you could try it for me." "Okay," Kakashi said, "I don't have many lightning jutsu in my arsenal. Plus I could add it to my new White Storm bloodline." "Okay," Naruto said as he took out a scroll and handed it to Kakashi. The silver-haired man looked through the jutsu and nodded impressed. The man then went through the hand signs and called out, "Lightning style. Lightning hunt." Kakashi shot an electric bolt out of his hand and it formed 3 wolves made completely out of lightning. The 3 wolves snarled and launched themselves at a nearby tree. The wolves exploded in a blast of lightning as they made contact. "Bang," Naruto said, "I didn't know it would pack that much of a punch." "Naruto," Kakashi said, "I think you might have found a talent." "Thanks," Naruto said, "Oh, before I forget. There was something calling out to me yesterday. I want to go and find it, okay?" "Okay," Kakashi said, "I think that anything that makes you stronger will help us in the long run. Also, if you come up with any new jutsu, let me know. I want to know what to look forward to." "Alright, sensei," Naruto said, "Oh, and if it's my jutsu, you don't get to copy it unless I say so." "Got it." "Got it," Kakashi said, a little upset that he wouldn't be able to copy some new jutsu. As Naruto started walking, he heard the voice again. This time it seemed louder. He followed it. After a little bit he found a cave. After walking inside, the voice became much louder. He walked a little further. As he did, alarm bells rang in his head. He jumped forward to avoid getting crushed to death by the walls, which suddenly launched forward and almost crushed him. After that, Naruto started running. As he ran, he jumped over a spike pit. He then had to do the limbo to avoid a bunch of pendulum blades. "What is with all the traps in this place?" Naruto yelled as he dodged a volley of spears from the nearby wall. Finally, Naruto came to a large chamber. He noticed some crevices and put his hand in it. He felt oil on his hands. Naruto took out his light sword and touched the oil, which then ignited. The flames traveled around the room. He did the same thing to another and it lit the entire room. He noticed that the place was dark and in the middle of the room was a pedestal. On it was a large black scroll. The walls were decorated with bones and skeletons and dead bodies littered the floor. Each one seemed to be reaching for the scroll. Child." Naruto realized the voice was coming from the scroll. He slowly approached it and stepped over the bodies that littered the floor. When he approached the scroll, he slowly reached out and placed his hand on the scroll. Nothing happened. Naruto then picked it up. Nothing happened. Naruto smiled to himself when he heard the sound of grinding stone. The look to see the pedestal sinking into the ground. "Oh, crud," Naruto yelled. He had read enough adventure stories to know what that meant. He started running like heck. As he did, a large boulder fell from the roof of the cave and he started running like mad. "Curse you, Indiana Jones." Naruto yelled, then he stopped yelling. Where did that come from? He shook though as he kept running. He eventually reached the end of the tunnel. Then he made a hard left as the boulder rolled past him and into a nearby lake. "Well," Naruto said, panting, "that was the craziest moments of my life. What is this anyway?" "Kit," Kyuubi said as he saw the scroll through Naruto's eyes, "that's the Raven summoning contract. The Ravens are the pets of the Shinigami. From what I remember, a very select few were able to use them in combat. Anyone unworthy were either poisoned by the Shinigami's chakra or eaten alive by the Ravens." "That explains all the dead bodies in there," Naruto thought, "so what do I do now?" "You sign it," Kyuubi said, "the contract called out to you. That means that they want to work with you." Naruto bit his thumb and suppressed his biomass from healing it. He wrote his name and blood by Kyuubi's instructions. Then he left his prints and blood on the bottom of the scroll. Naruto then went through hand signs and called out, "Summoning jutsu." There was a large crow with a kanji for shadow on his back appeared. It was pretty big and looked nasty. "Who dares summon Kumori, Shadow, son of Aojo?" "Death," the large bird growled. "That would be me," Naruto said, gaining Kumori's attention. "You?" the bird asked. "I never thought I would see a living human." "Are you the boss?" Naruto asked. "No," Kumori answered, "my grandfather Shigai, corpse, is. If you want to earn the right to summon us, then you must summon him. Add a bit more chakra this time." Naruto nodded as the fox disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto focused more chakra this time and summoned again. This time when the smoke cleared, it revealed a humongous raven with a beak big enough to pick Naruto up like he was an insect. "Who has summoned Shigai?" the large bird asked. Me?" Naruto asked, feeling a little nervous. The raven boss leaned down and looked at Naruto. Somehow its face showed curiosity. "Strange," the raven boss said, "you have the smell of death on you, and yet you live. I can smell purity off you, yet I sense darkness. Why is that, boy?" Naruto explained that he had the Kyuubi sealed in him and his bloodlines. He also told the raven boss about this life. The raven showed extreme anger at that point. Impudent humans, Shigai snarled, only they can be so stupid. Child, I have tested your soul. You're worthy to summon us. Before I go I want to make sure that is known. He lowered it beak and spat out a bit of chakra. It went to Naruto's arm and the tattoo of a raven appeared on his arm. That mark means you can summon us, the raven boss explained, just put a little blood on it and you will summon my race. Good day to you Naruto Uzumaki. The raven then vanished in a large plume of smoke. Naruto smirked and walked away from the site. A little while later he walked into Tezuna's house. He was greeted to the side of an exhausted Sakura and Sasuke, a grinning Kakashi, and a pleased and normal-looking Hitomi. So how was your day? Naruto asked. I hate you Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke said in unison. Oh I'm broken, Naruto said sarcastically, Kakashi-sensei I need to talk to you for a minute. Okay, Kakashi said as he got up. What is it? He asked when they were alone. I found that voice, Naruto said, turns out it was a summoning contract. Cool, Kakashi said, for what animal? The ravens, Naruto answered. Kakashi's eyes went wide. He had heard of that summon, but he didn't think that anyone would be able to actually summon them. Also, Naruto said, I think I know a way to end this and not kill that hunter nin and get rid of Geto at the same time. How? Kakashi asked. He had been thinking it over and he knew that skill likes abuses and that hunter nins would come in great handy. Well, Naruto said, I can get one of my summons to send them a message. If they agree and send us Geto's location and we'll go down there and tear those ugly suckers apart piece by piece. And if they don't accept? Kakashi asked. Then, Naruto said, we have the summons tell us their location, then we go down there and kill those suckers and then them if they try to stop us. Good plan, Kakashi said, now let's get back to dinner. I'm hungry from practicing that jutsu. Naruto nodded and the two walked back to the table and sat down. What were you talking about? Sasuke demanded. No telling you, Kakashi said, now shut up. Sasuke was about to say something when a glare from both Kakashi and Naruto shut him up. After that the group sat in silence. Sasuke got up and went to his room after finishing his plate. Around this time Inari spoke up. Why do you try so hard? He asked. Everyone looked at him. Why do you try so hard? He repeated, Geto's just going to kill you just like he did all who stood in his way. You're just going to die. Inari. Tsunami cried. No mom. Inari said, they should just give up. Kid, Naruto said, we're ninja. We don't go down easy. Plus he can't be that strong. Yes he is, Inari argued back. Oh really? Naruto asked, then let's go through the checklist. Is he big, strong, young, or fast? No, Inari said, he's old pudgy and walks around with a cane. Well, Naruto continued, I bet he has some powerful jutsu underneath his belt. He's a civilian, Inari explained, he doesn't have that much what is that stuff? Chakra, Kakashi answered. Thanks, Inari said. Now, Naruto said, does he even know how to fight or does he hide behind thugs? He used thugs, Inari said, what's the difference? You don't know what it means to suffer. The air became tense. Suddenly the temperature dropped and ice formed on the table. Naruto slowly rose up and looked the boy in the eye. I don't know suffering. Naruto asked. Kid, Naruto growled, have you had to eat out of a garbage can? Did you have to buy overpriced expired food? Have you lived on the street or in a crummy apartment? Have you ever been shunned and ignored and had children's parents tell them not to go near you? Have you ever been alone all of your life? Inari shakily shook his head as he saw the anger in Naruto's eyes. Of course, Naruto growled, that was my life. All that happened to me. I don't care if you only had suffering for this long, I've had it all my life. Besides I can tell you that in a few days' time. Geto will just be a red smear in the dirt. Naruto then got up and walked upstairs to go to bed and sleep off his anger. Was Naruto really like that? Sakura asked. Yes, Kakashi said, I can't tell you why, but Naruto has been alone all his life. He knows what loneliness and despair are like. Inari sat in disbelief at what he had just heard. He was upset that he had talked like that to someone who knew what real pain was. Sakura just sat upset that she had been a part of the group that had made Naruto so alone. She had listened to her mother when she told her that she should never go near Naruto. As a good girl she listened. Later that night. Naruto awoke from his slumber and walked outside. He looked around to make sure no one was watching. He then bit his thumb, went through hand signs and slammed his hand on the ground. Summoning jutsu. When the smoke cleared it revealed a normal-sized raven. My name is Kuro, Dark, the bird said, what is it you need of me? I need you to deliver a message for me, Naruto said, I need you to find Zabuza Mamachi. Tell him and his apparent ally Hunter Nin that I have an offer for them. My offer is that I want them to join my village so they be safe from Hunter Nin and other threats. They can send you back with a reply. Understood. The bird nodded and flew into the air. Naruto using the force gave Kuro a mental image of the man and his ally. The bird also managed to get the scent of the man's chakra. The bird then shot off to find ally. Meanwhile at Gato's base. A young woman with long black hair stood next to Zabuza and was nursing his wounds. Her name was Haku and she was the hunter nin that saved Zabuza. She was still shocked that mere genin was able to do this to the man. She felt herself flush as she remembered the boy. She had to admit he was kind of cute. She also knew that he was dangerous. Then again it was dangerous here too. She remembered what happened when they got back. Flashback. I can't believe you weren't able to kill an old scarecrow and 3 brats. A yell came from a pudgy old man in a tuxedo with a cane. He was glaring at Zabuza who was laying in bed due to his injuries. Quiet Gato, Zabuza growled, I'll get the men that little run next time. You better or else I'll call in those hunter nin you're so afraid of, Gato growled. Please do not do anything to upset Zabuza-sama, said Haku taking off her mask, if you keep doing this, he won't be able to kill you enemies like you hired him to do. Gato leered at her as he walked up to her. You know, he said putting his hand on her arm, you're pretty easy on the eyes. A split second later there was a loud crack and Gato was nursing a shattered arm. Do not touch me you pig, Haku spat, do so again and client or not, I will kill you. Gato's samurai guards grabbed him and pulled him away. Gato yelled, I'll get you for this you little slut. You hear me? I'll get you. Haku just turned back to Zabuza and continued to heal him. But in the back of her mind she was worried that he would fulfill that promise. Flashback end. Haku? Zabuza asked, how much longer until I'm ready for battle? A few more days Zabuza-sama, Haku answered. It was then that they heard something tapping noise and then a voice. Suddenly there came a tapping, as if some gently rapping at my chamber door. 'Tis a visitor I muttered tapping at my chamber door merely this and nothing more. Who's there? Zabuza asked trying to sit up. The voice spoke again. Surely said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then, what thereat is and let this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more. They heard the tapping again. Haku noticed the noise was coming from the window. She slowly approached it and opened it. As it did a raven flew in and landed above the door. It looked at them and said, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed but with mine lord or lady, perched above my chamber door. Perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door perched and sat and nothing more. Zabuza and Haku stared at the ebony bird that sat above them. Surprised that it could talk. Zabuza then remembered a poem his mother read him as a child. She said it was from the old world. Zabuza then said, thou thy crest the shone and shaven, thou I said, art sure no craven. Ghastly grim and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian the raven. Nevermore, the bird finished, I did not know you were familiar with that poem. My mother read it to me as a child, Zabuza said, wait how am I talking to a bird? I am a summon of my master, the raven answered, my name is Kuro. Your master? Haku asked. Naruto, Kuro said. The brat who injured me? Zabuza asked in shock. Yes, the bird said, he wishes to offer you safety in his village. He wants you to abandon this life of wandering and join him in the leaf. There you will be offered safety from your enemies and this Gato man. I don't know, Haku said, I have a bloodline that allows me to use ice. I'll be hated there. Actually, the raven said, bloodlines are accepted in Konoha. That is why he wants you to go with him. He read about Kiri and how they despise bloodlines. In Konoha you won't be hated. I can have a home, Haku said as they sank in. Kuro, Zabuza said after thinking for a few minutes, tell him that we accept. H reached under the mattress, despite his pain, and took out what looked like a thing of blueprints. These are the schematics for the tower, Zabuza said, if they really plan on doing what I think they're going to do, then they are going to need it. Good, Kuro said, now they should be here tomorrow night. When that time comes I suggest you be anywhere but this place for it promises to be quite the massacre. With that dear swordsman and lovely maiden I bid you good night. The ebony bird then flew up and out the window heading straight for Tizuna's house with the blueprints in its beak. Why did you accept? Haku asked her master. I'm tired of running, Zabuza said, and I'm sick of taking flack from that old midget. Besides I don't want this kind of life for my daughter. Haku's eyes widened when she heard that. She then started to tear up and jumped at Zabuza. She hugged him tight but was being careful of his wounds. Oh daddy, she cried. Zabuza hugged his surrogate daughter back. Now come on, Zabuza said as she let go, we need to pack up. Haku nodded and got to work. As she did a small white fox in the corner stirred. The next day. Sakura and Sasuke were doing the tree walking exercise with a mutated Hitomi behind them. She wasn't attacking them, but she was making sure they didn't slack off. She was currently chewing the bone of a bull she caught while hunting. She was savoring the flavor while Kakashi and Naruto were talking off to the side. Did they accept? Kakashi asked. They did, Naruto said, we attack tonight after sundown. My summon can show us the way. We should be ready though. We don't know if Gato has hired any more missing nin to pick up the slack. In that case we both have to hone our skills for tonight. See if you can find a way to repel water in case we run into some more missing nin from Kiri. Also Kuro got these blueprints of the place. We need to study them so we know where to attack. Naruto, Kakashi said, don't you think that we should tell Sakura and Sasuke about this? You're kidding right? Naruto asked his sensei, Sakura would give us away with that pink hair of hers and Sasuke would get himself killed trying to go up against someone who is obviously way out of his league. The two were broken from their conversation when they heard sobbing. They turned to see Sakura running from the area where she and Sasuke had been training. Naruto knew that this was obviously something bad because he had never seen Sakura cry. I got her, Naruto said getting up. He followed after the pink-haired girl until she stopped and fell to her knees crying. Sakura? Naruto asked, are you okay? No I'm not, Sakura said. What happened? Naruto asked as he lifted the girl up. Sasuke, she said, I noticed he was having trouble with the tree walking exercise. I asked him if he wanted help. Then he turned on me and said that I was weak and didn't deserve to even talk to him. He said that I was only good for live bait and that I was just some weak slut who had no business being on the battlefield. Sakura, Naruto said, I have to say that I'm considering feeding Sasuke to Hitomi and leaving what's left for the ravens, but then I'd have the council on my back for hurting their precious Uchiha. However I know a way you can get back at him. How? Sakura asked. Her crush on Sasuke all but dead now. Simple, Naruto said, get strong and then when you get the chance tear that little sucker apart piece by piece. Sakura nodded, her eyes had dried and her resolve had hardened. She was done with Sasuke now and the fangirl in her was now but a distant memory. With that the two went back. Of course as soon as they did they had to keep Hitomi from taking a huge bite out of Sasuke's head. Meanwhile, the underground lab's main computer finished counting down and the systems fire up. Recharge complete, the menacing mechanical voice said, scanning. Blacklight virus found. Estimating point of origin. Scanning complete. Found in large structure. Searching location in database found. Village. Konoha. Number of armed forces. High. Population. High. Beginning mech. Soldier production. An assembly line roared to life and large metal structures came down and sparks flashed as they were welded together. Complication. No biosamples available for biosoldier construction. Dispatching collection drones. Allotted time till amount of biosamples. 1 month. Added time for mech. Solder completion. 1 month. Total time. 2 months. Construction held until biosamples return. Above the lab a large metal slab opened and 3 small drones flew out. All 3 of them were small round balls with small holes and red spot that was used as a visor. Immense collection of DNA. The 3 drones then shot off into the world. Back with the people who are completely oblivious to the mechanical menace. Wow, that sounded like something in an old cartoon. It had fallen dark and Naruto and Kakashi both laid in their beds. It was around 11 p.m. when Naruto started to stir. After making sure with the force that Sakura and Sasuke were asleep, he rose up and put on his regular clothes. Kakashi did the same seeing that they were asleep as well. The two made it outside and Naruto summoned Kuro. Do you remember where the base was? Naruto asked the bird. Yes, the bird said, follow me. The two followed the bird. It was a little hard to do since it was a black bird and it was nighttime, but the bird radiated a red chakra that outlined it, making it easier to see in the dark night sky. After about an hour or so they arrived. The building was a large compound with a large tower in the middle, a few smaller buildings surrounding it. All of this was surrounded by a large wall. Inside you could see a lot of mercenaries who were either just messing around or fighting each other. So how are we going to do this? Kakashi asked. I say we just blow the place sky high and turn everyone in there into a bloody smear on the pavement, Naruto said. His ancestor had a ruthless eye and he was showing it right now. Kakashi just looked at the crowd. His eyes narrowed and he sent out a small pulse using his powers. In the buildings he saw outlines of people. They were red while he found some who weren't. They also realized that they were tied up. Naruto, we can't just destroy the place, Kakashi said, there are innocent people down there. If we destroy the place we'll be endangering innocent lives. Naruto nodded at his sensei. He was currently racking his brain for a plan. He finally got one. Thinking quickly Naruto made 3 shadow clones. There were 3 main buildings. Okay you 3, Naruto said, I want each of you to stealth consume a guard. After that go down and enter one of the 3 main buildings around the tour. Once you're inside you need to silently take out the guards, then tunnel your way out of the complex. When all 3 buildings are free of innocents, me and Kakashi will begin our attack. Understood. Sir. The 3 clones said in unison and saluted. Now go. Naruto yelled, making the 3 move. Each clone activated their chameleon skin abilities and ran through the woods. Eventually each one found a guard and consumed him silently. Then deactivating the chameleon skin blended right into the crowd. Building 1. Naruto 1 walked through the room. He noticed that these main buildings were actually warehouses. It made sense since they would need to have plenty of space for all the prisoners. Hey, Naruto 1 yelled, still in disguise, the boss wants to have a word with you. The guard who was watching the prisoners believed him and headed out. The still disguised Naruto walked over to the group who were currently in chains. The women in the group whimpered slightly while some of the men in the group looked defiant. Naruto shifted back to his normal self, making the people in the room gasp. The Naruto then took out one of his light swords and cut the chains. The MMers in the group and a few women hugged him gratefully. Hey. The Naruto spun around to see a guard brandishing a sword. Naruto held out his hand and lifted the man up. Then using the force slowly choked him to death so that it would make too much noise and get some unwanted attention. Force lightning would bring people due to its light, and throwing him into something would make too much noise. After the man was dead, Naruto covered up his tracks by bringing him over and consuming him. Since the man was dead, he learned about its secret escape hatch in the back of each building. Using the force, he sent similar messages using the force to the other clones. He then motioned for the people to follow him and lead them to the passage. It was under a thing of boxes which Naruto gently lifted off the ground. Then he jumped down with the people following. They came out on the north, south and east walls. All of which weren't near the entrance of the compound. As soon as all the people were out, Naruto waved and then disappeared in a large puff of smoke. The same thing occurred with the other 2 buildings. Well, almost. Naruto 2 used his claws, while Naruto 3 just consumed the guard in his building. It was weird that there was only 1 guard in the room, but then again Gato probably didn't consider that Naruto and Kakashi would come here. Back with the real Naruto. Naruto looked a little confused as he got the memories from the shadow clones. He didn't know that they could do that. He shook his head and figured that he could think about that later when they weren't about to destroy a major base. So you did come, came a familiar voice. The 2 turned to see Zabuza and a pretty young dark-haired woman. With them was the small white fox that Hitomi had a thing for. Hitomi barked when she saw the small white fox and tackled the small fox, making it yip. Oh brother, Naruto groaned. Aw cute, I didn't know your fox had a thing for Fluffy, the girl giggled. Naruto then noticed her and smiled slightly. And you would be? Naruto asked. My name is Haku, she said, I was that hunter nin that rescued Zabuza. Oh, Naruto said, pleasure to meet you face to face. Naruto picked up her hand and kissed the top of her hand, making her blush slightly. Okay lovebirds, Zabuza said, breaking up the moment, can you 2 get started? I want to get out of this hole. Sheesh, Naruto groaned, killjoy. The blonde turned to Kakashi and said, would you do the honors, my friend? I'd be delighted, Kakashi said. He walked up to the edge of the cliff that overlooked the compound. He lifted up his headband to reveal his normal eye. Read chapter 4. His yes narrowed and a blue circle appeared in his vision. Apparently since he lost his Sharingan, he had gained the ability to create a mental crosshair that he could use to make more efficient shots. It narrowed slightly and his vision zoomed in on some conveniently placed barrels that had the words warning. Explosive on them. He then took aim and fired a bolt of electricity from his raised hand, making Zabuza and Haku gasp in shock at what they had seen. The results in the camp was a large explosion of fire and metal shards. Screams of shock and fear echoed through the camp. Naruto grinned as he saw his sensei act like this. Let the bloodbath begin. Naruto yelled. He and his sensei jumped down from the cliff and ran across the field to the compound. Who the hell are those guys? One mercenary yelled as he saw the 2. Who cares? Another one yelled, let's just kill him. Some of the mercenaries who weren't total cowards charged at the oncoming ninja. Kakashi was quick to respond and shot out a ball of electricity called a megawatt hammer. The mercenaries were too stunned to respond. The blast exploded and the 2 were suspended in midair. Kakashi followed it up with a shockwave, sending the floating mercenaries into the walls. Naruto quickly made a shadow clone. Since his training, Naruto found out that his light swords couldn't copy with his clones. As the clone was made, he took the light blades from the back of his belt and threw them to the clone. The clone then activated them and switched the blade color to black. He swung the swords and every few mercenaries the energy blades disintegrated them. The real Naruto shifted the biomass in his arms to the claw setting. Each mercenary he approached he sliced through like a hot knife through butter. A few mercenaries tried to cut him down from behind, but Naruto shot a few biomass spikes out of his back, effectively turning the mercenaries into walking shish kebabs. Meanwhile, Kakashi was going all electric on mercenaries. He was firing lightning bolts left and right, sending mercenaries to the ground, twitching from the electric current running through their bodies. One mercenary almost got the drop on Kakashi when he came up from behind him with an axe. Kakashi sensed the man before he even came close and jumped away. He then sent through a small ball of electricity that connected firmly with the mercenary's side. The mercenary tried to brush it off but couldn't as he ran back. Luckily it was a static bomb so he couldn't get it off. Kakashi then sent him flying back with a shockwave and then said bomb exploded. Naruto's clone was tearing through mercenaries with his light swords. He fried two with a blast of force lightning. He lifted another one up with the force and slammed him up against the wall. He then used a force push that crushed the man against the wall like a bug. Two more came up behind him. The clone turned, sent both swords flying. The two were cut right down the middle. While he didn't have his swords, a few mercs got cocky and tried to run at him. The clone curled up and then let out a huge force wave that sent all the mercs flying back. At that time the swords came back. He grinned at the only mercenaries who were standing. "Boo," was all the clone said and the group ran screaming. Naruto then lifted a large piece of debris that was just laying around with the force. He threw it over and crushed them like worms underneath a big black boot. Atomi took her monstrous form and went on a rampage. She tore through mercenaries with her claws and teeth. Her spiky bone tail cut through mercenaries like they were nothing. One mercenary got lucky and stabbed her back with a spear. Luckily the back parts of her body were made of hard plates like armor, so the spear broke. When a mercenary saw his folly he ran for it. The monstrous fox turned on its heel and shot out a blast of bile from its mouth. The mercenary was turned to a puddle of sizzling goop on contact. The fox roared and continued its massacre. After a few minutes the ground was littered with the bodies of their dead enemies. Naruto and Kakashi both stood up grinning at their victories. The clone handed his swords back to Naruto and vanished in a puff of smoke. Naruto turned off his swords and put them back on his belt. The two started to head for the tower when a voice called out. "Hey kid." The two turned to the source to see a dying mercenary on the ground. "Kid," he said, "I can tell that you can't be a normal kid. Tell me your name. That way when I die I'll be able to brag when I go down." "My name," Naruto said, "is Naruto Uzumaki. Son of Minato Namikaze is the Yondaime of Konoha and the Yellow Flash of Konoha and Kushina Uzumaki the Red Death of Whirlpool." "Son of the Yondaime," the mercenary said with his last breath, "I am so going to brag about this." But those last words the man died. Naruto and Kakashi then headed toward the main tower. On the top floor. Beto sat at his desk. He was watching everything through a series of cameras that were set up all over the place. Each one also had a microphone, so he heard that Naruto was the son of the Yondaime. At the moment he was starting to sweat. He kept his composure and turned to two shadowed figures behind him. "You think you can take these two?" he asked. "Yeah," said the taller of the two in a gruff voice, "he may be strong, but I think we can kill one little punk." "Yeah," said the short in a snide voice, "we can kill one brat and a scarecrow." Meanwhile Naruto and Kakashi were making their way to the top floor when two figures came out of the door. The first of which was large and built like a bear. He had an eye patch on his left eye and a scar going across his chin. The second was shorter. He had green hair and had a massive scar on his forehead. "Who the hell are you guys?" Naruto asked. "My enemies call me Stone Bear," the larger one said, "the shorter one is Aoi Rakushi." "Should I be scared or something?" Naruto asked. "Stone Bear," Kakashi said, "he's known for slaying a lot of people and he's one of the best axemen in Earth Country, also known for his strength. Aoi Rakushi is known for abandoning the Leaf Village for Rain Country and for the theft of the Raijin." "Hey kid," Stone Bear said, taking out a large black double-sided red trimmed axe, "I wonder how much I will pay for the son of the Yondaime's head." "I don't know," Naruto asked, "how much was my old man's bounty?" "Naruto," Kakashi said, "I'll take on Aoi. You can take Stone Bear." "You got it Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said as he smirked at Stone Bear. "You're dead you little punk," Stone Bear growled. The two ran at each other. Stone Bear swung his axe with surprising speed for such a heavy weapon. Naruto managed to catch it by the shaft before it hit him. The two were currently at a standoff. Naruto was holding back at the moment of his fight with Stone Bear. He was trying to draw the fight to a bit. "Is that all you got, boy?" Stone Bear growled. "No, even close ugly," Naruto said as he started to use his real strength to push back. Stone Bear was clearly surprised as he felt himself get pushed back. Naruto then using his strength tore the axe from Stone Bear's hands and threw it at a nearby wall. The axe embedded itself into the wall. Stone Bear growled in frustration. He charged forward swinging his fists intent of crushing Naruto like a bug. The blonde bobbed and weaved narrowly avoiding the enraged and crazy man. After a few swings the stone nin finally managed to land a blow. The result was Naruto getting thrown back like a rag doll and making contact with the wall. The wall caved in and fell down around Naruto burying him in rubble. Son of the Yonde my butt, Stone Bear said as he turned around. As soon as he turned his back the rubble started to rumble. Stone Bear turned around and looked in disbelief as the rubble rose up a bit as Naruto started to move. He was about to reach for his axe when a long rope-like arm shot out and pierced the man's chest. He was then ripped off the ground and into the rubble where Naruto burst from and shifted his other arm to its blade form and stabbed it into Stone Bear's gut. Stone Bear looked in shock at the boy who now had a large blade-like arm shoved into his stomach and sticking out of his back. Naruto then retracted his blade arm and turned that in his whip fist arm back to normal. He turned to Hitomi who was still in her monster form. "Beat up girl," he said. Hitomi would have grinned if her skull-like had permitted her to. She opened her mouth wide and a few tendrils shot out and wrapped around Stone Bear's body. Then the tendrils ripped her back and into her jaw. After devouring her meal she belched. Naruto followed the sound of fighting to find that Kakashi and Aoi's had brought them into another room. Naruto stood back and watched as the two electric users fought each other. Kakashi kept firing lightning bolts and the lightning thief kept blocking the blasts with a Raijin. After a few blacks Aoi went on the offensive and swung the electric blade at Kakashi's head. The silver-haired Jonin ducked effortlessly under the blade. Kakashi then jumped over Aoi and swung an electric-powered punch to Aoi's side. He then unleashed a flurry of punches. After a few punches Aoi was knocked back and then Kakashi sent out a shockwave that sent Aoi out a conveniently placed window. Kakashi walked up to the window and grinned evilly. Then he waked back and then ran toward the window and jumped out. As he fell he gathered electricity which increased as he fell. Aoi looked up despite being in phenomenal pain and surprising being alive. He looked up to see the silver-haired Jonin fall down on him and hear him yell, infamous style. Thunder drop. That was the last thing the Aoi heard as his body was crushed by the technique that also released a small shockwave. Outside the compound Haku and Zabuza stared down at the carnage that was happening. Haku felt a little ecstatic at the sight and had to restrain herself from jumping up and down for joy. Apparently Zabuza's love of combat had started to rub off on her a little bit. Zabuza just looked on enviously as the massacre in the compound occurred. He was mad that he couldn't participate in this, but he could only watch and enjoy the free horror show. Back in the tower Naruto activated his muscle mass power. He drew back both arms and shoved both forward breaking down the door to Gato's office. Naruto looked around the office and couldn't see anyone. He then felt a large amount of fear coming from behind the desk. He walked over and activating his light swords, slashed the desk in half, revealing a very scared and sweat-covered Gato. "Please don't kill me," Gato begged, "I can give you anything you want. Money, power, women, land, anything." Naruto was quiet for a moment. Gato took this as a sign that he was considering his offer. That thought was squashed as Naruto picked the man up from the ground. Naruto then used the force to delve into his mind. Gato screamed as his mind was torn into. After a minute Naruto found Gato's account number. He dropped Gato, who was unconscious, and walked over to a computer that was still in one piece from the desk getting sliced in two. He walked over to the computer. He grinned as he accessed it. He searched for a few seconds and made a quick transaction. Then he turned to the unconscious Gato. "Aren't you going to kill him?" asked Kakashi who had just shown up from his sudden drop off the wall of the tower. "No," Naruto said, "I have something so much better planned." "What's with the scrolls?" "Well," Kakashi said, "I'm turning in Aoi's head for the reward. Since I can't find anything of Stone Bear you can turn in his axe." "Cool," Naruto said as he shot off some biomass at Gato and wrapped him up in a cocoon that covered his mouth and kept him quiet in case he woke up. As the two left Haku, Zabuza and Fluffy joined them on their way back. Naruto grinned a fox-like grin. His first fight against an army had gone well. Of course if he had noticed he would have seen that one mercenary had gotten out. A little later at a publisher's store. A mercenary approached a publisher's store. Well, it wasn't a publisher exactly. It was a place where mercenaries came to give off information. The information was given to the publisher. Since the place was open 24 hours a mercenary could drop off info at any time. "Hey man," said the mercenary from earlier as he walked in. Were you here to rob me?" the worker asked. "No," the mercenary answered, "I'm here to add some info to the next issue of the bingo book." "Oh really?" the worker asked as he took out a pen and paper, "Do tell." "Well first," the mercenary said, "I want to add some info to Kakashi Haddock. First off all it seems he doesn't have the Sharingan anymore. In place of it he has powers that give him unmatched control of lightning powers. I thinking of giving him the title the Lightning King." "Interesting," the worker said as he wrote this down, "what else?" "Yeah," the mercenary said, "there's this kid. A genin who apparently is much stronger than that. His name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Son of the Yondaime of Konoha and the Yellow Flash Minato Namikaze and the Red Death Kushina Uzumaki of Whirlpool. He's basically like his dad only with whisker marks and much younger. His eyes are black with a red iris and a slit black pupil. Like this? The worker asked as he held up a drawing. Yeah, the mercenary said, he can turn his arms into an arsenal of weapons. Claws, large fists, a whip thing, etc. He also has powers that allow him to shoot lightning from his hands, lift people and objects, and throw them with his mind. He also holds two swords similar to Raijin, only it cuts through you instead of shocking you, and it cuts right through you. He seems to have some other powers, but I didn't see all of them, so expect some people to add some to that. Oh, he also travels with a red fox that can grow to the size of a horse and turn into some kind of monstrosity. That's, the worker said in disbelief, insane. What is he? I don't know, the mercenary said, my buddy he killed said he was gonna brag about it in the afterlife. Anyway, I think I know what to call him. The Black Star. As a ring to it, the worker said, I'll list his as an A rank due to his powers and such. This will make a fine addition to the bingo book. Thank you. No problem, the mercenary said, now if you'll excuse me I'm gonna go spread this around. I want people to know about this before the next issue of the bingo book comes out. What if Naruto stops hiding his power council bashing, and thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.